Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order our June 9th Town Board meeting. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We have to approve our prior minutes. May I have a motion to approve the May 12th, 2014 regular town board meeting minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of our May 23rd special town board meeting?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Any announcements? Does anybody have any announcements? First, I'd like to say that we all marched in a lovely Memorial Day parade, so I'd like to thank Wayne Reifenberg and the American Legion Post for another great parade, and also thank you to the Rhinecliff Fire Department for the parade before that. It was a lovely day. Our pool is open Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 7 p.m. until the 28th of June when it goes to the summer schedule. So we're almost there. Does anybody else have anything? Okay, we have some...
Rhinecliff Day.
Oh, thank you. Rhinecliff Day is coming up June 14th, this Saturday, at the beautiful, wonderful river in Rhinecliff. There'll be lots of fun activities, including for children. So come with your families, come with your friends, come with little ones.
What's the hour?
When does it start? I think 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? Oh, we have Bobby Fitzpatrick here to make a presentation about the town hall heating system and the front steps. Which would you like to tackle first?
I'll do the heat first. So I'm Bob Fitzpatrick with Buildings and Grounds. And we've had an ongoing boiler problem, amongst other things, in the town hall. The boiler was installed in 1962. We have a leak in the firebox. We have frequent water steam off, blow off from vacuum collection box, and we used approximately 3,400 gallons of fuel oil last season. So together with Bruce and Elizabeth, Bruce asked me to give our consulting engineers a call for their recommendations. And I'd like to introduce Richard Messer and Scott Hendricks to talk about our alternatives and where we're headed with the heating system here in the town hall.
Bob, I'm sorry, how many gallons a year?
3,400.
3,400. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Yeah, Rich Messer with Weston and Sampson, who are the consultant engineer for the
Yep.
town. And I have Scott Hendricks here. Scott's been heavily involved in doing boilers and that type of work, so he's got a lot of expertise. He's done over 100 schools in his career doing the same type of thing, converting or looking at heating systems and changing them out relative to either steam or oil, et cetera. So anyway, Scott and I and Bobby walked around early this afternoon, looking at the system, and Scott has a few ideas relative to the best way to move forward. I'll give a general synopsis, and then if you have any questions, we can field and answer them. But generally, I'd say that based on the history that Bobby talked to us about, the existing steam piping, et cetera, is in pretty good shape, and he hasn't had problems with it or with any leaks. That being said, the key component for moving forward would be to seem that the steam would be the lower priced approach, which is the existing heating system that you have. And obviously the boiler is aged and needs to be replaced. And there's some details that Scott looked at and discussed to help make the controls to be more individual to rooms versus the way it is now. So generally, that's the overview or kind of the key components. It looks like STEAM would make sense. I think the next steps relative to our effort would be looking ahead as far as giving a proposal to do some engineering so that at some point near future it could be bid and reconstructed. So anyway, we're open to any questions that you may have.
Scott, are you on staff at Wesson too?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, thanks. I mean, there's a ton of questions. Bruce, you probably have the most. No?
If we went with the STEAM, we would pretty much get out of the asbestos abatement issue or not?
I believe you have asbestos in the boiler room right now that would need to be addressed, but it would be localized to that area.
Just in there? Okay. I mean, I get called every day from the county wanting to know when we're going to get a budget because of the grant submission, so.
Elaine, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm just waiting for a budget. That's right.
What about NYSERDA? Is that going to apply to this? Is it not going to apply to this?
It's not going to apply directly to a heating replacement system. It will do nothing for a boiler. The only way they would do something like that is if we were able to convert to natural gas, which we can. So they have other funding alternatives available to us that would help us contain costs, additional equipment, for example. In fact, they have some heating and refrigeration possibility, that's equipment, which the Garrison Library is installing. It's an electric-powered heating and cooling system, and it would help control costs. It shifts the heat and the cooling around the building, so you could have it go from one zone to benefit another one that's not heating or cooling with the same consistency. So something like that, he said, would help control costs and would give us an opportunity to maybe buy a cheaper boiler system or have something less than what we think we need right now, because it would work to keep it more efficient, but it won't replace the system.
Is this something you could take into consideration when you're looking at engineering for this? Or we could give you the NYSERDA information and see if there's anything we could capture or?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that would be a complete change in the approach. So that would be more of an alternatives analysis versus really where we're at right now, which is trying to use the existing system and look at what's most effective for that. And based upon, like I said, the initial review, you have a lot of steam piping, et cetera, throughout the building. And the most cost-effective approach, and considering that piping is in good shape, is to continue to use that piping. If you went to electrical heating and cooling, I think that would be
It wouldn't be switching. It wouldn't be an alternative. It would be what he called like a perfect marriage of equipment. One would help reduce the efficiency of another. So we would still need a heating system, but it would help to contain the costs. It would help to distribute heat more and cool air more efficiently throughout the building.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about now is strictly heating. So I'm not sure on the cooling portion that you're mentioning.
Yeah,
what
I
that
was
is,
hoping
so-
he was going to be here tonight because he's able to really talk about this. He's able to articulate how it works with a heating system, because I thought it would be an alternative too, and he said no, it would be complementary to. And he's able to explain it very well, but unfortunately he couldn't be here tonight. He can come to a future meeting, but he's well versed on this stuff and how they work together with systems.
Well, I think if you could have the information sent to us, we
Sure.
can quickly look at it and determine,
I can
based on
also
our...
give you his contact information if you have questions for him directly you'd like to ask, if you think that would be easier.
Yeah, I'd like to see what he's proposing first, so if he...
Well, maybe you ought to talk to him.
Yeah, 'cause he's not-
I did talk to him, and I'm not sure it's even comparable.
Right.
So I think maybe a call to him, and maybe we'll save a lot of his time.
We just
and
don't
All
want to
right.
leave any NYSERDA
Possibly.
potential
I
grant money on the
understand.
table. If there's
We're-
any way we could capture any of it to help us.
We're always conscious of
Yeah.
that, but sometimes to try
Bruce
to
is-
capture that, the price tag for your
Yes,
work goes
we're
substantially
aware
up.
of that, but we just would like you to put eyeballs on it. Bruce has a grant into the county for some infrastructure replacement for shared services, so we're trying to overturn some rocks for funding.
Absolutely.
Now, what would it entail doing an engineering study for this? What are you envisioning, or what do you?
I'll let Scott speak to the details, but what would be happening is that we would be putting together a proposal, and I guess there's some existing drawings of the building that we would utilize to try to put together some sort of performance specification and information that you would be able to go out and bid to get this work done. And with that, there would be some basic drawings and some details to understand what has to happen to convert the existing system into the improvements that we just talked about.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it pretty much would be plans and specifications for bidding. There was no discussion to date about a study of any sort.
Is there anything more than just getting a new boiler? It's a steam system now. If you're going to go with a steam system, aren't we just asking for prices of furnaces that make steam?
I think you've got some existing condensate issues that need to be sorted out, for starters. In addition to that, I think the control system could be certainly better than what you have at the moment. It provide better comfort, and also probably some cost savings, because you wouldn't be overheating spaces.
Which we are doing now.
Which we are. It's 80 degrees in one room and 50 in another.
Yeah, that's pretty typical for
Yeah.
what you see here in a
Yeah.
building like this. The other thing, again, I'm concerned with the condensate system and the vacuum. There's a vacuum condensate tank, and my experience with those is that they just don't seem to last very long. It's very difficult to maintain a vacuum, and getting your condensate back to the system is very important for efficiency. It's also very important on how the system works. You can actually have distribution problems with the steam because the condensate backs up or things like that. And you get that sorted out, you put together a few drawings and some specifications, go out to bid. That's exactly what we're talking about.
How,
You got an, I
I'm sorry, go ahead, Alan.
was going to say, have you got an idea of ballpark what this is going to cost?
I've had about 20 minutes in the building, and I haven't put pencil to paper, but you're probably talking between 150 and 250,000, depending on mostly the level of controls that you're going to want. If it's self-contained controls, it'll be a lot less. If it's something that's integrated into a building management system, it'd be certainly a little more.
How much for the work for you to put together a bid specification package?
Yeah, I'd have to look at that more closely, but I would include that. That would be part of the 150 to 250
Well, I
range.
mean, I don't think we're going to, you're 150 to 200,000, but the first step for us is to get a bid package together. We're not awarding it to you. You're coming,
No, the first step would be, we'd give you a proposal telling you the next steps and how much that would cost. And then you can determine if you'd like to go forward with that or not.
can
But
you
Bruce,
clarify?
we can put the 150 to 200 into the county as the ballpark?
Well, we've already said 250.
Okay.
You said 150 to 250 though, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but we said 250, we said we would save 70,000 over the life of the system, and we asked for 50,000, because that's what we felt we could get.
Yep, that sounds within our ballpark numbers from 20 minutes of walking around.
So what they're doing right now is they're doing the consulting engineer thing. They're
Yes.
not doing the bidding and everything else.
Right.
So this is just to tell us what we should be doing, considering, right? So,
Is there any idea for the consulting engineering part of how much that would cost us for you to put together the bid package?
That's what we're going to provide to you in writing, so.
Great.
I gather that the steam system is not efficient, and there are, if we went to hot water, it would be more efficient, but we're constrained because of our piping to stay with steam.
What you said is true. The steam system is probably, well, as it exists right now, I wouldn't even want to guess at the level of efficiency, but with proper controls, you could get 80 to 82% efficiency out of a steam system for this building. If you had a hot water system and you really pushed the envelope, you could get like 93 to 95% efficiency. So there's about a 12% difference in the efficiency of the two systems. Actually, I'm sorry, you'd have to switch to propane to get those levels of efficiency out of a hot water system. You cannot do it with oil.
But the problem is that we'd have to remove asbestos throughout the building and
And repipe.
in effect close down the town hall for a while.
Yeah, I would not recommend using the existing steam pipes in an attempt to try to make them into hydronic pipes. It doesn't work very
We
well.
don't have the infrastructure in place for the hot water.
That's correct.
Let me just throw this
I mean,
out since we're,
it can be done. In my experience, it's between 2.5 times to 3 times more expensive to convert a building like this to hot water than it would be to try to renovate it as steam. Again, the key issue is the quality of the piping as it exists. My understanding is it seems to be in very good shape. As long as the piping is in good shape, you can kind of get around the periphery and fix all the little bells and whistles that you need to make the system work correctly.
Okay.
The furnace itself, we're talking, what, about 30,000 per furnace? So the rest of that is the adjustments in the piping and to try to get zones, is that the right word?
Remove zones valves, right? Take out some of the zone valves, take out some of the traps. The boiler is going to be about 35 to 50,000.
Yeah, I think the price you got, it was for a hot water boiler. They're a little more expensive to go steam. There's more what they call appurtenances, that controls and issues that go along with the steam boiler. I wouldn't want to hazard a guess at the price of the boiler itself at this point. I mean, the numbers we're looking at are kind of square foot numbers at this point in time.
Should we even consider a cooling system, or are we just not set up for it?
It's really just a matter of cost and how much disruption you'd be willing to put up with. But it's certainly possible to put a cooling system in almost any building. I mean, it's done in historic buildings that have much more to preserve than this building.
Is that something anyone wants to consider for this room or some of the rooms?
That might be something that's covered under this thing that Jeffrey Domanski brought up, the electric-powered heating and cooling, because it's not a furnace alternative. It's for the distribution of temperature control. And I think it would
We need a
be,
delivery system to distribute it.
but I think it's all part and parcel of this. It's like new technologies. That's why I think it'd be really good when they have a conversation, because they'll speak the same language. They'll understand what each other is saying. But he seems to feel really strongly about this, and that it also helps in your fuel costs, because the way it works with the distribution of air, whether it's hot or cold air, is it's meant to keep the cost down, like other heating and fuel costs. So he said you'll see your fuel costs go down. The library loves it. They had theirs installed. They got some grant money for it too. It didn't cover all the costs, but
Okay.
yeah, so it's really worth.
Our library here, the Star?
No, Garrison Library. Jeffrey told me that they had just installed it. So it's new technology, like I said, but I really think it's important to talk about.
I think we were talking to Bobby a little bit about that, maybe you want to mention, but I think part of the cooling issue is having the space and ductwork to have that in the building someplace.
It's not that kind of cooling system. It's a new technology. In fact, he said the central box looks like an air conditioner. It doesn't involve all the ductwork. In fact, if it's helpful, I can read you. A library has what they call a Mitsubishi variable refrigerant flow. And it says, variable refrigerant flow zoning is an energy-efficient method of providing precise comfort control to indoor environments. VRF offers a wide variety of applications, everything from spot cooling or heating a single room in a home using a split ductless system to a large commercial building with multiple floors and area that require individual comfort control delivered by a split zoning system. VRF moves refrigerant to the zone to be heated or cooled, allowing the temperature of that area to be more precisely controlled. It can simultaneously cool some zones while heating other areas, or just provide comfort control to zones that are in use. Zones are single or multiple room spaces that are conditioned to a set temperature and are operated independently from other rooms within the same structure. Ductless systems provide more building design flexibility and result in more usable space. Ducted systems allow you to combine multiple rooms into a single zone. Unlike other VRF systems, Mitsubishi Electric Cooling and Heating uses a two-pipe design which reduces the complexity, time, and cost of installation with fewer refrigerant lines and connections. Inverter compressor technology is highly responsive and efficient. The technology allows for compact, quiet units, flexibility of placement, and gives architects and owners more design freedom with integrated, simple-to-use controls.
So that's like the little box that's outside and the high wall unit with the pipes running up the side of the building, or the tubes. You see on a lot of houses now? That's what that is, it
Okay.
sounds like. And to me, that sounds like an add-on for cooling, but not necessarily for heating. It would help to keep the the room temperature up maybe, so you didn't use as much oil. But I think they're two separate things from the way that sounds.
Well, this is the Mitsubishi, what Jeffrey described to me, that's why I really wish he could have made the meeting tonight, but he's in Sullivan County. It works with both, and he can explain it, he can articulate it in a way that I obviously can't because I'm not familiar with the technology.
But they're going to
We'll let
call
them
him.
speak.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You'll talk to him.
So what do you, we need, you're going to write us a proposal telling us what the costs will be to achieve the next step of what we need to do.
That's correct, yes.
Is there any way we can get this done? Are we in the right time frame period? It's June now. We want to be warm in December.
Yeah, ideally, we'd be out to bid at this point in time already.
We're a little behind schedule.
We are. I mean, luckily, it's not a tremendously complicated project, so it could be executed fairly quickly. You are going to be probably at the end of the project up against the clock.
That's okay. Well, we'll, hats and mittens again. Thank you. Does anybody else have any more questions, comments? Thank you for coming, gentlemen.
When you're ready, I assume we can have special meetings of the board so we don't hold this project up, because I know time is very sensitive on this.
You want to give us the number right now? and
Oh,
then we
sure.
can-
As soon as you have,
Okay, it's
you know,
Jeff. His
proposal
last name is
material,
Domansky,
let's get it rolling.
D-O-M. Okay. It's 646
Couple days, okay, good. We'll be here.
483
3,
1338.
3, 3, 8.
Now, our next meeting is on the 23rd. It's in 2 weeks. Do you think you could have
He said a couple days.
okay.
Right, why don't we have an emergency meeting?
As soon as I get
if,
some information, we'll decide how to handle it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good night.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks for
coming.
coming.
Bob, we have you for one more issue, I
Front
think.
steps.
Don't go on it, right?
Yep.
Front steps.
Front steps.
Thank you.
I'm the
Our
sublime.
front steps and side steps are in disrepair. So I'd like to ask for us to, I need some prices on it, first of all, but request for proposal, I'd like to draw up one for, I don't think we need an engineer for it. I have a design that I'd like to offer you
You're-
through one of my masons, but I need to ask you to give me the approval for a request for proposal.
No, and you're proposing that we rebuild the whole
Yeah,
infrastructure
we want to
too?
tear out the existing steps and rebuild
And
with
reface
slates.
them, new
Yeah,
infrastructure?
the whole
new-
thing,
Great.
provided the footings are in good shape.
Well, we'll
Reuse
know-
the footings.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Number one, yeah. Trying to keep it so we don't go out to public bid, hopefully.
So you will put together something, run it by us, and we'll approve it
Yep.
at our next meeting?
Yep.
And we'll reuse all the
Reuse the
railings
railings,
and
yep.
whatever stones we can. Great. Thanks, Bob. Anybody else have any questions for this?
Go
You're
to
gonna,
it.
you want to do, I guess the dog kennels is slated a little further down, or do you want to do that while Bobby's here now?
I don't think we're ready.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bobby.
Bob, I'm sorry, where are the dog kennels?
They're down under committee reports.
Oh, sure, we can do that. I'll take this out of order if anybody doesn't have, and then you'll be able to go, Bob.
So do you want me to start with a little background?
Yeah. go
Okay.
ahead.
So back a couple of months ago, I took some photos. I got a call from Roger Newkirk, the animal control officer, about the conditions when it rains in the dog kennels. Apparently, they practically flood,
Yeah.
which is causing real problems for the dogs. He has, in fact, most recently, I think he had to ship a dog or two out to a different kennel because of the water situation. So I guess the board needs to make a decision about how to address this. I think some attempts have been made to at least address the water issue, which doesn't seem to be working. So I think we need to decide whether we want to move the kennel or raise the kennel. And that's what Bobby's here to talk about.
Elaine, do you know where he shipped these dogs? You said he shipped them to another kennel.
I don't, but I can find out.
So Bob Wine and I took a look at it the other day, the dog coop, and there's been fill brought all the way around it throughout the years. It's no one's fault, mostly because of the salt shed that was built and the grade has been raised. So what I'm recommending is different things. You can try to reuse the dog coop, but we want to raise it up approximately 2 feet. Lay block around, fill in the inside, put another slab down, reuse either the existing one or go out and buy a new one. If you buy a new building, new fence, all the work, we're guesstimating between 15 to 20,000.
How many runs do we have?
3.
And we would
We
get
need a
a,
new fence. The fence is in disrepair. It's rotting. If you keep the original one, all right, deduct 4,000 or 5,000 from that, but
But we definitely need a new foundation, and maybe to do
it
some
needs to be
grading.
raised, right? And then we'll put drainage around it when we raise it. But Kathy and I have talked, she's in agreement with keeping it where it's at, correct? So,
Is 2 feet going to be enough?
Well, the experts will,
another would be 32 inches, so Bob and I looked at it, and, you know, if I needed another course, it's not gonna cost that much more to raise it. But we'd pitch everything away, the grade and what have you. Kathy'd put drainage in. There is some rot there, you know.
what's
it's
our
not
next step then? RF going out, pricing out?
Yeah, I've
an
got
RFP for-
prices on buildings. One fellow gave me a price of building and the fencing, and the other just the building. The building's like 4,000, the fencing is another 1,000.
What are we getting for 4,000? Is it
You're getting a-
insulated? Is there
You're getting a
electricity?
16 by 20 building, texture 111 siding, shingles, architectural shingles, a door, a 3L door, entrance door, 2 windows, 30 by 36. I'd have to finish the inside. And I'm recommending, if you've ever been in a butcher shop or something, like a plasticized finish on the inside, waterproof. It would need to be insulated, it would need to be heated. So we're guesstimating, Kathy and I both talked, we're guesstimating between 15 to 20 by the time it's done, if we buy it.
Have you looked into any of those, like, prefab places
Yep.
that will make it to
Went
spec
to
for us?
Bayhorse, and I went to
Brad's Barn.
Brad's Barnes. I got prices from both. They're similar, 4,600 and 4,000, so.
Elaine, does Roger feel that the 3 kennels is sufficient, the 3 runs?
Yeah, I don't think he had an issue with the number, the space. I think it's more, in fact, one of the questions I was just about to ask Bobby was about some of that rotted pipe, because his bigger concern was, A, that the dogs were literally submerged in water
Yeah,
at certain
we
points.
can't, they're,
And the other thing is in the back, the metal, the fencing, it was actually so rotted that smaller dogs could get through.
Yeah,
Those
so
were
it-
his 2 main concerns.
so it needs to be
Oh,
replaced.
it
we
has
know
to be.
that,
It really
right.
does. It's bordering animal cruelty,
Yes.
frankly, if you ask me.
There's no heat in there, they're
Right,
freezing.
and imagine all that water and there's no
Yeah,
heat and they have these
yeah,
electric heaters.
yes.
I mean, you know, it's a
So
scary
what's our
situation.
next step? Do we have, what do we need to do?
In the fall, you have to make a decision, you know, if you want to do a new building, or, Roger says there's a lot of mildew. The odor's pretty bad inside, and there is some rot,
Got to be
so,
replaced.
I mean, it's 27 years old. I talked to Roger tonight, he couldn't be here. I'm recommending you buy a new one. New
Put
fence,
it, and put a foundation.
and raise it up, yep.
Do we know how many dogs we have over the course of a year?
But
And
we
I
re-
think it...
We receive dog reports every month. I think they're all on file.
Okay.
Yes,
I
we
think
do.
I think we ought to look at that. I think it's very, very few dogs. That's my impression. I could be wrong. And I'm wondering, instead of spending 15 to 20,000, maybe we could put the dogs in another kennel if there's one available in the surrounding area. Now, I do remember that Hyde Park came to us to see if they could use our kennel. I don't know what they're doing now, but maybe we ought to explore whether there's an alternative to having a kennel here in Rhinebeck.
I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is then we're asking people to travel further, to board dogs, pick up their dogs.
Yeah.
For our dog person, it's gas, time.
Yeah. But, you know, if it's a very small number of dogs and the cost is substantial, 15 to 20,000, we ought to at least know that, explore.
Right, but the number of dogs at any given time is fluid. I mean, there may be relatively few dogs now, but
What
what's
is-
Well, let's see
to
what,
say that's not going to change or next year? I mean, in fact, I think we're turning into more of a dog community than we've been in the last 10 years. Seems like people are more pet-oriented. But I don't know if I'd want to bank on the fact that there's an X number of dogs each year that are very
I
few.
think this is a service we provide for the community,
Yeah.
and we need to have,
Inadequate
we need to
kennel.
have, exactly,
I mean,
I
it really,
agree.
you should really go check it out. It's like near animal
It
cruelty.
is, it's horrible.
but it certainly doesn't harm anything to look at the facts as to how many dogs we have.
No, it doesn't.
Well, we do have the facts there. We
Yeah,
receive
we ought to
dog
look.
reports every month.
But I don't think our decision should be based on that because that's a fluid number.
Let's see what...
I agree. I think we have an animal enforcement officer. This is a service that we do, and we
Right.
have to have an adequate facility.
Right, yeah, and we're asking him to travel further to, I mean, I don't know, I just think if you weigh it out, and if you're basing that purely on the number of dogs, I just frankly think it's wrong-headed to do that, because that number can change.
Kathy, could you come up, please?
I just want to make sure I heard some of the information right. Did you say that the current building is 27 years old?
Yes.
27 years old, and if a new replacement building is $15,000, that means your costs for operating that was about $550 a year.
Yeah.
For housing the dogs. And I think Elaine raises a very good point about travel time. I mean, we've been very lucky here in Rhinebeck to have a local dog warden that's been able to return dogs to their homes very quickly without a dog actually getting lost in a system, which is what happens once they're shipped out somewhere to either an SPCA, whether it's Columbia County, Ulster County, or Dutchess County. All three have programs like that. So, Ryan, this is something that just based on community history now, when it's come up, has always been a very hot button issue. And I think that this is something that people feel is a community service that, their taxes are covering. And as I said, that's a minimal cost of $550 a year, basically, for the cost of a building.
Well, I'm in favor of it. I'd like to see it with heat. I'd like to see there be water there if we can. And I've seen the building many times, both, occupied and unoccupied, and it's a sad state to see those guys in there.
Let me ask Kathy a question. You don't object, Kathy, do you, to finding out some facts? Okay, good.
I'd like to see the numbers too.
Well, are you guys going to compile this?
I'll look at it.
Okay.
I just wanna
Could you,
know,
yeah,
where are the dogs going now?
you have to,
Are the dogs still going there now?
Yes.
Under these conditions?
yes.
They are.
Although during the heavy rains this spring, he did have to outsource them.
He has a place to send them.
Yeah, and I gotta say also, thanks to everyone at the Highway Department, because I know that Kathy, your guys are very kind to these dogs too, and help find homes and take care of them. Yes, adopted homes and taking care of them before they're returned, so it is a town effort.
Our employees has adopted two of them.
All right, well, does
Very
anybody
nice.
else have any questions? We're gonna look at some data, and Bobby, when would you need to do this? Is this like a fall project after?
No.
Okay, okay.
But one more question, Bobby, was the issue addressed with the hole, the gap where the dog was getting out, the smaller dogs?
Fence?
Yeah, was anything done at least to Band-Aid that in the interim? Can we do something about that so he doesn't have that problem with smaller dogs?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Elaine, thanks,
Thanks,
Bobby. Joe and Alan, you guys are gonna look at the dog reports and come up with some data for our next meeting?
Why don't we just ask the dog guy?
Go ahead. Yeah, get whatever data you'd like.
You want me to do that? I mean, I'm liaison to the...
Yeah, why don't you ask him
why
if
don't you get
he
him-
knows how many dogs he has, and go back 4 or 5 years, so we can see what the trend is, if any. I understand, people may have objections, but let's at least
I don't know if he's
see
gonna
what the
have-
facts are.
I don't know if Rogers keeps data like that for 5 years. I'll certainly ask him.
Let's ask
But
him.
I think Elizabeth said before, we have that data already, because we do get the dog reports. So wherever that data is, we have that here. I don't
It's
even
in
know.
the clerk's office.
Yeah, so maybe that's the place to go.
John, you have that data?
He files a report once a month, but somebody would have to go through the monthly report.
And compile it.
To figure it out. It'd probably be easier just to ask
He-
him.
Yeah, he probably
Okay.
give it to us off the top of his head.
Okay, I just don't know if he'd have it for 5 years, but I'll ask him. I'll ask him.
Great, I think we're
A memo.
good
with
on
some
the
data
kennel and the
would be
dog
good.
information. We know what we need to do, and we'll move ahead. Bob, I guess, did he leave? Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much. Wherever he went, where'd he go?
Moving on, is everyone okay with this? Any other questions, input? Patricia Wind is here from our Rhinecliff Waterfront Committee with Rod Morrison, LRC consultants on the Rhinecliff Landing.
Thank you.
Thank you, big presentation.
Hey, this look familiar? Thank you very much.
Do we have it available in PowerPoint for the public, or?
I think we have the final
Okay, then
version
we're,
that I have changed so much just in the last 24 hours.
great, so you'll talk us through this.
Can we put it on our website?
I can send it to you as a PDF if
Yeah, that
you want to make
would
it
be
available to
great.
the public
Yeah,
from here. Yeah,
please.
sure. Okay, so what you're looking at is just a picture of the Rhinecliff Landing. So I'm here to present from the Rhinecliff Waterfront Committee on the progress that we have made so far in the DEC grant that we obtained and started working on in July. So just kind of browse through this. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to remind everybody what the purpose of this committee, the Rhinecliff Waterfront Committee, was. So if you flip to the second page, the purpose that the committee feels that we serve is mostly to increase awareness of the access that we have at the landing at the Rhinecliff. We want to maximize this access to the waterfront in a way that benefits everybody. Create a community space that can be enjoyed by local residents, promote the Rhinecliff waterfront as a destination attraction for visitors, and build a stronger connection between Rhinecliff and Rhinebeck when it comes to tourism. On the next slide, you'll see, I feel that the second point I made about maximizing access to the Rhinecliff waterfront in a way that benefits everybody is very important. This is a community space, so there's a lot of people to take in consideration when we look at what we want to do down there. So I've just sort of laid out some of the everybody that we're talking about here. That includes day-use boaters, large commercial vessels, Rhinecliff and Rhinebeck residents, visitors to the Rhinebeck area, the Rhinebeck crew team, which we'll get into in a little bit, existing Rhinecliff businesses, and emergency services. Specifically, the grant that we are talking about tonight is a DEC grant that we obtained to do a feasibility study of the Rhinecliff waterfront. The grant is $30,000 from the DEC, and there's a $10,000 town match. This was applied for back in 2008. It was approved in July, and in September, the town contracted with LRC Group, who we have here with us tonight if there's any questions at the end of the presentation. So to refresh everybody's memory what we're talking about tonight. So the summary of the feasibility study, these are the points that the study needs to address as part of the grant application. So by the time we finish the feasibility study, we will have wanted to cover all of these points that we see here. The first one is traffic and parking solutions for increased use of the landing at the river. Identify ways to minimize erosion and safeguard against rising water levels. Identify ways of stabilizing the bulkhead and methods of protection or reconstruction. Provide for increased use of waterfront by large vessels. Guide the placement and configuration of seasonal floating dock systems to diversify day-use boaters, and determine feasibility of a boardwalk north of the bulkhead along west side of the access ramp. So where we are in the feasibility study, I have compiled a list of organizations and individuals that we've consulted with and met with to this date. These include Senator Gibson and his office to gain information just generally on the area and support and grants that are available. We've met with Dan Miller of the DEC, and he has advised us so far on a way to form our development project so that it is friendly for achieving future DEC grants. Colleen Cruikshank of the Chamber of Commerce for partnering with community events that we can plan to hold down at the waterfront space. The Rhinecliff Hotel, James Chapman, and coming up with parking agreements and arrangements to help solve some of the parking issues when we do hold special events down there. Amtrak and CSX to discuss lease opportunities for expanding our space into some of their spaces that they have available down there. The Rhinebeck Police Department, Sergeant Dunn, we had discussions on safety, signage, and lighting. Rhinebeck Fire Department, Henry Campbell, also we discussed safety and accessibility. Dutchess County Tourism, Mary Kay, was very helpful in identifying tourism activities that we could bring to our waterfront that are in demand in Dutchess County. Rhinebeck crew team, Ralph Bosco, the coach, We've met with him and discussed possibly creating a home base for Rhinebeck crew to use at the Rhinecliff waterfront. And we've just recently discussed with the planning board about reviewing the LWRP for the development.
How, CSX, is there any opportunity there for us to get any more space, or?
Yes, I think so, and I think that Rod can talk about that.
Okay.
As we go through here. Just a couple pictures that you have here of the existing conditions you'll see, if you want to just flip through the next two slides. And then there is an overview of the existing site. You'll see that if we sort of start from the left side of the page and move to the right, on the bottom there, it says the existing sidewalk does not connect to any walkways throughout the landing areas. One of the things, actually, that I didn't put on this slide about who we've discussed with was the ADA, what was the organization? There was an ADA study, an accessibility study done of several waterfront spaces along the Hudson. And unfortunately, the Rhinecliff did very poorly on our assessment, and I can make that available. Actually, I think it was made available to the town and then given to us. But so you'll see that the existing sidewalk does not connect to any of the walkways throughout the landing area, and you'll see that through the entire landing space. Once you get from the pavement, if you wanted to go to like the bench seating area, if you were wheelchair bound, the grass
You couldn't do it.
is not an acceptable.
What is the red line? There's a red perforated line.
Property boundaries.
Okay.
An approximate of the property boundaries, I guess, okay. Existing asphalt needed for the boat launch vehicle turnaround should be upgraded, maybe for multi-purpose and foot-friendly. Again, on the bottom here, you see no firm or paved surfaces for embarking or disembarking large vessels. So if a large tour boat pulled up and wanted to use the deep water dock that we have there, there's really not sufficient access there at that space for people to get on and off of a large vessel, and again, cross the green path to the paved area. Moving right, you'll see that we've identified root growth between the sheeting and the timber bulkhead caps, and that just, speaks to the bulkhead and its its disrepair, and that it needs to be upgraded and maintained. And, just you can kind of read through these. The slab at the top of the gangway makes for inaccessibility to floating docks. Again, if you wanted to use the floating dock system that's there, that is the taxi ferry dock system, the height increases between the different surfaces is, at some points more than 4 or 5, 6 inches. Again, it's not accessible for a handicap wheelchair. Again, no accessibility to the picnic tables or the grills or the benches. So really a lot of this that you see in here talks to the accessibility for the ADA compliance study that we had looked at. And then the planter walls are in okay condition, but they could be a future issue, and we would look at redoing those and making them a little bit more maintenance friendly for the future. Any questions so far on that page? The next, you'll see an overview of Rhinecliff again. As you look through the hamlet, you see that we've identified that we should provide more comprehensive signage for pedestrians, bikers, and cars. I know personally, several times I've said, meet me down at the Rhinecliff landing, and nobody actually knows where to turn to get onto the ramp to get down to the Rhinecliff landing.
It's a secret, yeah.
Yeah. So if we had, more adequate signage for visitors, there is a designated bike trail path that goes through Rhinecliff, And again, if we could identify on that bike trail path signage to direct bicycle users down to the waterfront, it'd be a great stop for them to make, come sit down and hang out and rest for a little bit while they're on their biking journeys. On the north side of the landing, you'll see a little layout for a proposed boardwalk with observation deck and fishing platform, floating docks, and launching docks for both the crew and for paddlecraft kayakers, a spudge barge for dock and day boaters, and then storage under the ramp for the Rhinebeck crew team and seasonal paddlecraft storage. So one of the things that we have seriously looked at and considered in the feasibility study is making the space under the ramp, if we were able to lease it from CSX and Amtrak, making that into storage space for seasonal kayak rentals and also for the Rhinebeck crew team to store all of their sculls and their equipment there. Currently, the Rhinebeck crew team leases space at Marist to store all of their sculls and their equipment. They pay a very large sum of money to Marist to do this, and it has been expressed from the Rhinebeck crew team, parents, coaches, that if they could move their home base to Rhinecliff, that would be very beneficial for them and possibly for us. So in talking to CSX, one of the things that we are very interested in seeing is if we can lease the space under the ramp to turn that into some sort of storage area that the town could then lease to the Rhinebeck crew team to gain some income from the space for maintenance and so forth forward. If you look on the south side of this photo, you'll just see some expanded boardwalk, fishing area, more docking space for day use boaters. And then the next couple slides are just a zoom in then of each of these spaces, the north and the south, showing exactly what some of these improvements and infrastructures are that the LRC has currently come up with and proposed as possible solutions for the 5 points that I mentioned in the beginning. And at that, I would open it up for questions.
What concerns me, looking at this, is we have a one-person maintenance department. We have to take in the existing docks. We were convinced to get a dock because of the ferry. We don't have a ferry anymore. That existing dock requires equipment that we have to rent that we don't have in the highway department. I would love to see design with that in mind, that future boards should not be saddled with the expense of maintenance of a lot of fancy floating docks here. I don't know how it's going to be paid for here. I don't see one of the objective is concern about maintenance. And at least my experience with this floating dock for the ferry, we wasted $26,000 on it. It's not used for a ferry. And I think whatever plans are designed should keep in mind, and to the extent that we can make improvements on shore and we're not saddled with pulling stuff out of the water at winter time, I think that really should be things that we focus on.
If you look at the last slide that has all of the possible improvements. I guess, just quickly estimating, I would say that 70% of it is land-based. So
70%?
I would, just looking at it, I would guess to myself that 70% of it is land-based improvements.
70.
70, yes.
Okay, but that means 30%.
So 30% would be water or a seasonal floating dock system that would then require the maintenance
But this is,
that you
we're
talk of.
talking about expanding the use of our waterfront. This is really the only access that the whole town has to the waterfront. And so
Right.
this is making an investment in infrastructure that it would allow for more people to have access. And yes, there would be more cost, but we would have more access and more space for more people.
Right. One of the points I also just wanted to make was that even though $26,000 was spent on a ferry dock, it has not been
We use it for
useless.
other things, yeah.
That ferry dock is used every single weekend. I have used it dozens and dozens of times in the
Kayakers
last
use
2
it,
years.
day boaters use
I
it.
see it in use all the time. So even if it doesn't serve the purpose that it was put there for, it serves another purpose, which just shows us that we need more of this space down there.
Patricia, doesn't
Or
the
this
development
access.
also give us opportunity for more income?
Yes. So, well, first of all, as far as this development goes, one of the things that the LRC group is also working on is identifying grant sources to do this work. Of course, that doesn't address the
Will that be
maintenance,
for
the
maintenance?
long-term.
Will that be for maintenance?
Of course, that doesn't address the long-term maintenance issues that you have brought up, but just as far as initial work, one of the things that the LRC group is working on is identifying grant sources. One of the good things about us scoring so poorly on the ADA accessibility
Is there
exam
could be
was that
money there.
there definitely could be money there. So any of the improvements that we do, if we can tie in the fact that they make it more ADA accessible, then we can tie in, grant money for that, for
it's-
it.
you know,
So-
you-
Isn't there also an opportunity to collect fees? Like if we're using that below the ramp, I mean, we could conceivably rent that out. I
Right.
mean,
So I don't want to throw, inaccurate numbers out there, but my understanding for the Rhinebeck crew team for what they spend to Marist every year for leasing that space is somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000. They also have to pay for school buses to shuttle the kids back and forth for practice, et cetera. So, whatever the town would come up with as far as a storage space for the Rhinebeck crew team and developing a lease.
Pay for a lot of
there's
maintenance.
Definitely a lot of money potentially there for something like that. In addition, we would like to see kayak storage units for kayaks that would be seasonal, where I could rent a space for the whole summer for $100 and keep my kayak down at the waterfront. And it would be, I could put my own private lock on it. And if we did 20 of those, you're looking at $2,000 for the summer season for just kayak storage rental. I personally had put a feeler out there 2 years ago to see if this is something that the community would like, and within just a few short weeks, I had a dozen names of people that would be interested in renting out a seasonal kayak space. So yes, as far as generating some money and income, there are definitely possibilities
Yeah,
associated
but really,
down there.
what we're talking about is developing a community space that everyone can enjoy. It's amazing, in the time I've been living up here, and you take the train down to Manhattan, and you see how the waterfront has developed. It's just fantastic to see. There's so much more opportunity for people to be out on the river, from here to Yonkers to, 125th Street, so.
Right, and there's definitely potential for a kayak rental business there, a bicycle rental business there. After talking to Dutchess Tourism, Mary Kay had told us that there is no bicycle rental on the actual bike trail through Dutchess County. So we would be the only ones, and how great would it be to get off the train, rent a bicycle in Rhinecliff, and then go for a bike ride, bike into town, and then stay at your hotel for the weekend. So there's definitely a lot of economic benefits associated with developing the waterfront as well.
Thank you.
I brought Henry and Rod from LRC Group, the engineers here, so if you had any questions specifically towards the engineering portion of what's been looked at so far in the feasibility study, they're more than happy to answer any other questions.
Question. Are there docks, floating docks, that are capable of staying in the winter? Can something be designed, or if you have a dock, it has to come in?
The answer is yes.
Just because I have the
Would you,
microphone.
would you introduce
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
everybody?
Rod Morrison from the LRC Group. I'm an engineer, and for Henry Thomas's benefit, he's a landscape architect, so I, can't be categorized as an engineer. In this location, I don't think you could do it just because of the ice action in
Tides
the
and-
winter.
The tides and the ice?
The tides and the ice, yeah. I think the ice is much more of a factor. But our conversations with the DEC about this spot are, in essence, if you go into the river, the most sensible thing to do is to drive pilings and have removable docks. Not terribly different than you would expect, but no, I don't think a permanent fixture in the river, especially with all the permitting effort that would have to go with it, is feasible or reasonably realistic.
How confident are you that CSX will rent that space?
Well, we're starting to have conversations with them, and we've identified the right people to talk to, which is a process, because you have CSX, you have Amtrak, you have New York State DOT, which is in control of the rails to some degree at this point in time. So the idea is, of course, that if we could retain the rights to use space, there wouldn't be a transfer, of course, of property. But
Right.
that division line where there's this conversation, and you'll see on those maps, the potential to extend a walkway or wharf up parallel to where the ramp comes down, really sits on the division line between the Hudson River and lands controlled by CSX. So it would be, without a doubt, a cooperative relationship and a lease-type relationship. But the possibility is very good, it seems like, at this point. So we're pretty optimistic about it.
Okay, I mean, to me, that's very exciting that possibility exists now. It didn't a few years ago, as far as I could tell. But if we could do that, then Joe's maintenance problem may be reduced, because we could put a ramp in over the riprap and just pull the docks over there and up into the area under.
Yeah,
Except for
absolutely.
the spud barge, everything
Right.
would be okay.
We're really sensitive to what would be suggested to be created and what kind of work it would take to maintain it. So the goal of this, is, as the supervisor points out, is to increase public use, enjoyment, benefit, and I agree with you. As I've spent a working career going up and down the Hudson, you've seen each community focus on their waterfronts, and each of them go through really dramatic improvements. And as we've had these conversations with the different people, as Patricia points out with Dan Miller, the DEC in particular, this continuous theme of funding for ADA improvements, so for improvement of those surfaces is currently a great opportunity. There might be more as we go forward. So the point of what we will create in this master plan document is really the backbone of what can be pursued over the course of years from different town boards and from different committees. There's a very important dividing line in what can be done. Basically, everything above the water line within that bulkhead, with the exception of probably getting a permit from the planning board, is doable from today forward. If you want to pursue something in the river, there's time involved with getting your Army Corps and DEC permits. For instance, as I said, for driving pilings, even if it's for removable docks in the future. Also, interestingly, when you look at those plans, there was equal interest from people in going north and south, extending a walkway or extending access in either direction. So what we've concluded at this point is both directions are possible. And really what it comes down to is what becomes the most available path to grow the use of that area.
But the storage you want is only north, yes?
Correct.
Storage for cruise shells, any of that we'd very much prefer that to be underneath the ramp coming down. Absolutely. It's not hard construction work to create a shelter in there to use. So.
Just a note about the potential diagram that you see. This is just what's potential. Definitely we're not trying to go out there and do everything. We wanted to throw all the options on the table for you. And it would be something that would be built over years and years. So we'd pick, what we wanted to see first, put our efforts and money towards that, and sort of give it a timeline and number each individual piece. Spud barge might be 10 years down the road, but redeveloping the surfaces and the accessibility could be year one, the boardwalk year two. So definitely, it's a lot to take in, the overall master plan, but that's just what it is, a master plan. And we can cut things out, we can add things, we can change the timeline for these things to occur.
What's the next step for us, Patricia?
Well, we are only about 50% of the way done through the feasibility study. So at that point, we would want to, identify what part of the master plan we want to move forward on first, and we want to identify funding for that. So that does bring up a good segue to the next little topic here, is that when we met with Senator Gibson's office, they had indicated to us that there is quite a bit of funding available for waterfront development through the CFA grants. Unfortunately, they only released the CFA grants on May 1st, and the deadline is June 15th. So there's really not a lot of time in there to look at them, decide what you want to apply for, and move forward with a grant application. The grants, so far from what I see, are all 50-50 matches. So as a committee, we sort of felt very hesitant to put a lot of effort into looking at the CFA grants because the deadline is so quick and there would be a lot of work to be done.
Is it something we could shoot for next year?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's something that we could shoot for next year, but if, if the board wanted to support us going for CFA grant this year, we would definitely try to do whatever we could to make that happen as far as the committee goes. But it is a 50-50 matching funds. So.
And it's, June 9th, so we've got, it's doing.
Fortunately, the application process is pretty easy. It's all online. It just would be several hours worth of answering questions to apply for the grants.
Is this something that anyone wants to consider, coming up with matching funds? Do you think it's too tight for us? Bruce, Elaine?
I think it's doable. I think it's tight, but I think it's doable. You know what I'm thinking? I wonder if one place to start is like the signage. Seems like a small, relatively small, but a very helpful place to start.
Or the
I think it's worth applying because we may not even get approved, but at least it'll get us familiar with the process, because you're right, it's not a cumbersome process. It's not lengthy. It won't take all that long. It's just responding to a lot of questions. But at least it'll give us a sense.
Don't we have some Rhinecliff money available in one of our capital funds for like the walkway or something that we could encumber for something like this, Bruce?
Well, we had the Hutton Street Bridge money.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit left in that, yeah, we could do something with that. Yeah, I mean, these things you can go with in kind and everything else if you can get there. You got to submit the application in time. So.
Do you have, what would you start with? What would you, if we were to say, go ahead, let's write one for this year?
Well, signage is a good, first step. Maybe, some small improvements, repaving, handicap accessibility. I don't know, like I said, we sort of hesitated on seriously looking to do the grants this year, because we would hate to apply for a grant and be funded $20,000 or, whatever, and then have to withdraw or forfeit the grant because we couldn't come up with the town match for it.
Well, that's why the town applies for the grant. You advise us, and
Right.
so we would have to commit the funds.
Don't we also owe some money on the consultant? I thought we were paying 25%. We haven't come up with all that money yet, have we?
No, we have. That money was, I believe, already set aside when the grant was applied for originally, and is still there with the town, if I remember correct from our meetings in July. So because we're only 50% of the way through the feasibility study, there is the additional 50% of the town funds that need to go for the match.
Did we encumber that money, Bruce, or we're...
I think the numbers are a little, the chronology is a little off. I don't think we've hit September 2014 yet, right? So I just.
Oh, sorry, the wrong date. It's September 2013.
Right,
Thank you,
so,
Bruce.
I mean, just the history of the grant it was before I was on the board. I know that
Right.
seems like a long time ago. And then we changed it in 2008 to a feasibility study. But at the time, there was something in the minutes that said they agreed to match it. The town board agreed to match. I don't remember it being encumbered, ever.
My recollection is the grant was 40,000 and we paid 10,000.
Yeah, it's 30 plus 10.
30 and
Yeah.
10.
So we still owe some money on that. I assume you want to get paid?
The payments have been, 2 payments so
Yes.
far have been submitted and processed through the
Right,
town.
we've all signed off on it.
Right, right. So we're only 50% of the way through the studies, so only 50% of the payments have been made to date.
Yeah,
I'm
Kathy,
saying
did you have
before
a
we invest
question?
more money in this, I wouldn't rush to do it.
Just a question, the grant that you were talking about, was that the grant that had been done at the previous senator's office and there was money that was there? That's a different grant? Because it's my understanding that there had been grant money
feasibility study money?
obtained for, specifically for work at the dock. And then the program never went through. I think the feasibility study at that point, the proposal was yanked.
I can answer it. That was the Salan grant,
Yes.
and part of that money was used at the dock for some improvements. The rest of it went into getting the senior
van.
van program going. So they redirected the money after the award for that. Remember, there was a Bobcat or something
Right.
that was proposed at one time. This other one was actually 4 finger docks, and then based on the design from the engineers, got changed to feasibility study.
It's my understanding, because I happened to be in the bookkeeping office last week when discussion was happening about this, so I'm sorry I don't have facts and information to give you, but I did hear that from that grant, the grant that was the Doc Bobcat van grant, for lack of a better definition, there's money left from that grant that needs to find a reassigned purpose.
That's great.
And that has to happen very quickly. I believe that Shelley was working on that last week. And actually, when that came up, since I happened to be sitting there, I did ask Shelley, I thought the best source of that would be possibly you, Elaine, with information on tracing that through its channel through the Senate. So I do understand that there is some money there, because I think, Elizabeth, your question was where to start and where would some startup money be, and that might be a place for you to look.
Do you have any idea what capital fund it would be in?
I don't know those H numbers.
Okay, 'cause I don't think we would have, okay, all right. I don't think we received the money yet.
No, I don't think so.
So I guess with that said, if the town was able to identify what portion of matching grant funds there could be, that, the waterfront committee would be happy to try to meet this June 15th deadline to apply for a grant that, could move us to the next step forward.
This, by the way, is kind of a chronic problem here. We had a dormitory grant, whatever that is, from way back when. They called us up last year or the year before and said, are you going to use the rest of the money? And nobody knew what it was. Bill may remember the dormitory grant, and it was for something for Stone Church. And we said, okay, we'll use it, and we got the money. We didn't know what it was for. And, it had been a previous board had done this, so these things fall through the cracks.
All right, well, I'll talk to Shelley tomorrow and find out if there is in fact some, it sounds vaguely familiar, and I'll let you, I'll copy Elaine, Bruce, and we'll see.
In the order of things that we've been talking about, when Patricia mentioned signage, we identified pretty quickly that we thought that a lot could improve what was fairly quickly if there were additional better signage about how to get places, where to park. I don't know if it's in that slide packet or not, but there's a kind of a parking allocation. It's a color sheet, and there's more there than it appears. I mean, I've never been able to find parking down there. So, but apparently it's there. But we also, once we talked to Mary Kate Verba about the connection with the bike trails, the bike path, and so on, that signage right away seemed to be a good fix. Then I would go to kind of the area within the bulkhead itself, surface treatments, ADA impacts. That may be much harder to do by, well, in a matter of days. So, longer term as well, I believe it's a requirement for this board to pass or accept the master plan document. So, I have in our head that we are
once the committee's happy with it, it needs to be given to you, reviewed. I don't know if you-
Planning board, yeah, it's the
Right.
LWRP and the
Right. So there's a
Historic Hamlet
process.
overlay, so we'll have to go through planning and zoning and,
So I think certainly cooperatively, Patricia could work with you guys to do a small grant, CFA application, but on a larger scale, we need to walk through this process.
yeah, I think
because-
there's a lot of work to do before we can, but I'll check with Shelley about that money. It sounds familiar.
Okay.
Thank you.
So does that mean, I just want to make sure I understand, because there's literally, it's 1 week from today that the application would be due. So you think it would be possible to have an answer by tomorrow? So that
Yeah,
if
I'll be
we
here
can-
tomorrow.
Okay, great.
If I can talk to her, I have it starred and circled here.
Okay, and if we do go forward, I can help you in any way, so.
I mean, if it's 10, 12 grand on the table, whatever it is, we should use it for matching funds and do something.
Those, you may know this, like, grant process, it isn't, what is the schedule for the next funding round to come out? Or isn't even announced yet? It seems to
When you say the
go
next funding round, you don't mean
irregularly.
2015, do you?
Is there another one before then? That's what we're trying to-
Which
You're talking about
Oh, in this
grant?
particular case,
The CFA?
the CFA grant process.
I don't know the answer to that. I want to say 2015, I think it's annual, but
May,
I
it's
could be
every
wrong
May.
about that. Yeah, but I will find out for you, and I'll email you tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thanks, Patricia. You know, I'm sorry, I apologize. I went out of order, and I always do this when I skipped a presentation from Kyle Irwin, who's here to present to us a marathon proposal. So Kyle, would you come on up?
Yep, and before I start, I have some updated documents for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here tonight and letting me present to you our proposal for the Rhinebeck Hudson Valley Marathon that would take place in approximately 1 year from now. The proposed date is May 16th, 2015. That would be on a Saturday. The reason for that, races are often on a Saturday or a Sunday. One of the big things that we'd like to do with this marathon is to promote our local businesses and bring people into the community that maybe haven't been here before or already know about it and give them a reason to come visit. So if they come on a Saturday, they're very likely to stay into a Sunday, and that's really the best way to bring the most revenue and generate the most revenue for the community from this type of event. So if everyone would be okay with that, we looked at the schedule, the calendar from this year. On May 16th is the weekend before Memorial Day, so the town pool is not open. Typically on Memorial Day weekend, there's the antique fair, so it wouldn't conflict with any type of traffic that those events that are typically held every year generate. So I think if the calendar stays somewhat the same, maybe that would be a good date for this year.
So you're
Again,
saying the
yep.
fairgrounds is not going to be used on May 16?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if the calendar looks similar to the way it's looked this year and previous years, that would potentially be a great weekend. I do know from meeting with Sergeant Dunn that the fairgrounds doesn't decide on their schedule until October. So if we need to change and not have parking at the fairgrounds, which I think the Fall Foliage Marathon has parking at which is a half marathon, has parking at the fairgrounds, but we would come up with several different options.
We could find alternatives.
Yeah.
It seems like a good weekend.
Right.
We're eyeballing it, and this is something that would grow. This would be the first marathon, and it would always be on this weekend going forward.
Yes. And in the race season, as far as it being a beautiful time of year here, it's not too close to the Boston Marathon. So race-wise, looking at other races going on in the region, it's a great time of year.
So my concern is just if you have 1,500 people and the fair is doing something, there's going to be a lot of traffic in town.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you could pick a date that the fair is not functioning, there'll be a lot less traffic in town and inconvenience to people who...
So far, this looks like a good
Right.
weekend.
I completely agree with you. We wouldn't want to conflict with any large event at the fairgrounds, which is exactly the reason that we went ahead and for now, are proposing that date. If for some reason the Antiques Fair switched to May 16th, then I would completely agree with you. Year one, highly unlikely we get 1,500 participants. That's just a max. We need to put a number down as a max. If we get several hundred people, I would be thrilled for year one. But we are looking to grow each year.
I'm sorry, what do you think, max, for year one?
For year one, max, I feel comfortable saying we'd at least get 500. Yeah.
That's what we got from the other one we did.
Right. And I have looked at the fall foliage and their growth rate. They're going to be in their third year this year, I believe. They're projecting to sell out with 1,200 participants, which shows that there is a demand and there is an interest. So I think we could project along similar lines for this type of race. This would be a full and a half, so it would be a larger scale type of event. Okay?
So it would take 8 hours, the event?
Yes, so typically for a full marathon, there is a cutoff, and the cutoff would be 8 hours. So if you turn to page 2, we plan to have an important part of this would be a philanthropic donation. We plan to make a donation to the town rec committee department and the parks. I know that they have plans in place that they would like to do at the town park. We would love to donate to that effort and to make that a continual basis going forward. I'm from Rhinebeck. I grew up working for the town rec department for my mom, who was the town director for many years.
The legendary rec director.
Legendary rec director. So that is a cause dear to my heart, so I'd like to start there. And then in line with supporting the community, we'd like to get local teams involved in supporting volunteering at the different first aid stations along the route. And then when they work at an aid station, we would then do something nice. If the field hockey team comes out or the local soccer team comes out, then we would want to show our same support for local athletic teams as well. And then bring in a larger organization such as the American Heart Association, which goes along with cardiovascular exercise. Okay. We do want to make sure that this is a credible race and that race participants who come and do this type of race could then use it as a qualifier for other races. Oftentimes, other races require you to report a certain time. So we would go ahead and, pending approval from the town and village board and approval from the working in coordination with the police department, once we know what course route we'll go with, then we would have the USA Track and Field come in and measure the course. We would make that investment up front so that we would be a USATF certified course, and then we would apply to be a USATF sanctioned event. And when you are a sanctioned event, you you have liability insurance for that event. On top of that, our business already has liability insurance every day of the entire year with a $1 million policy. So we would be covered for the event and in general.
I notice on the fair that it looks like the sheriff's department and the state police are patrolling that and directing traffic as opposed to the town of Rhinebeck police.
Yes. So
How is that arranged?
I could comment on that. I met with Sergeant Dunn, and that is the fairgrounds. I know for their week they bring in it may be the state police, but meeting with Sergeant Dunn in order to cover this type of event, they use basically the entire Rhinebeck Police Department. Some people might be on vacation or their day off, but you could depend on 10 to 12 of the Rhinebeck Police Department. And then for the half marathon, they brought in 3 highway sheriffs, and then as well as 3 state police. So depending on the type of coverage you would need, and that depends on the course, then all of those people would be brought in and work together in collaboration with each other to ensure the safety of the race participants as well as community members. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no. It was really more directed to cost.
We pay the cost, if that
Oh,
answers.
you'll pay the cost.
We receive the bill and we pay the cost. So no, the town board would not be paying any costs for police or anything like that.
Do you foresee the crossing of 9 being for a long period of time. But-
You know, I met with Kyle and went over this, and Kyle's met with Pete and Emergency Services, and the race course will probably be altered, and Emergency Services and the Police Department will work with her to come up with something that doesn't involve 9, because that is a concern, is closing it down.
We talked about that. There will be multiple courses that will be drawn up. Then I will meet and collaborate with both Sergeant Dunn as well as other emergency services, and we will all agree on the appropriate course. If there is ever a need, for some reason, if there is a part of a road shut off, and either someone from their home or someone, because they need to go through town and there's a road shut off and they need to go through town and it's a fire department, then obviously the emergency takes priority, runners will be stopped, and that's most important. And that will be communicated to all race participants and has already been discussed as far as in the initial organization of this event. But we can't say we're going to go do this course and then go do it without police.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, people have gotten really annoyed at the not being able to get out of their driveway the last few years.
Absolutely, I'm sure.
And when we did the bridge run, we shut down the bridge a couple years ago and ran from the other side by the toll booths over and past your house and over to CJ's. Those roads are much less traveled, and I didn't see those on here, so I'd suggest you look at those. They go by Bill's house, that one. But, you know, but the part that way, down Morton Road and that's very popular for racing, for running,
Yes.
they don't like it. So just expect pushback.
Yes.
And the board should expect pushback.
Well, I live on Mill Road, they go by twice.
I think we need, we'll come up with some course.
This is now the third version. We've been changing and talking about it. It's not, and by third version, it doesn't mean like there was Google Maps is quite easy to use, and it's very easy to change and then say, now are we getting closer, or are we getting further away from it? I know the half marathon does cross 9 in the beginning. If you look at this table, this is the type of thing that I'm developing when we do anything. So this looks at, when could the fastest runner, someone potentially running a 4:30-minute mile, which is, we probably won't have anyone even doing that, and someone running the course cutoff mile, which would be an 18-minute mile, what's the fastest time someone would get to one point, and that's at any turn along the route, and what's the slowest. And so we would even be able to tell someone on Cove Road or on whatever road, we would make them aware if they were going to be unable to leave their home, it would be for this half hour. So we wouldn't say, you're not going to be able to use your house leave your house all day, the race ends at 4 o'clock. That wouldn't be the case. So we are sensitive to that. I understand some people might not like it.
I think more importantly, Kyle's here to take our temperature as a board to see if we support this. And this is, someone who's grown up here, someone who's been involved with sports and recreation her whole life in Rhinebeck. And it's potentially something that can grow from year to year and be, another Sinterklaas, another, event that people come to Rhinebeck to participate in. And we're looking for community support, and that's something that I think our job is, if, which I'm very enthusiastic about this project, is to support it and then get the public to get on board with it.
I'm for it. I have experience with the other one, though, and I know the pitfalls from the other ones that we've run into, and all I'm trying to do is to smooth it out a little bit now rather than...
You're saying consider another part of town, maybe?
Yeah, there's issues, and parking is an issue. And we've done things to do all this, but there's a lot of issues. And we have the experience base to do. The other thing the town has to remember is this is not a town function. This is not a village function.
No.
This
It's a
is a
private
commercial
function.
function, right?
Correct.
So, and that's, we went through with the other one that we were going to make some money for the town and everything else, and I think we got like a quarter a runner or something like that, and that, it wasn't worth the expense that we put into it, supporting it. So, seriously, because we put our people on doing things, I mowed and.
Well, I don't think we're looking at using any town resources other
Well,
than the
you're
town roads.
You're gonna have, where are you gonna park people? You're not gonna park them at the highway garage, it's way too many cars
No,
for
our
there.
the first discussion, obviously, we're trying to do this a year out in order to pay close attention to the concerns that you're bringing up so that we can find great solutions as best as possible
Yeah,
to
and-
any concerns.
Oh.
So I will talk to the fairgrounds. That was the first suggestion that was made to me about parking and see if we could do parking there. Any other suggestions or don't do this?
Yeah, it may be-
Completely open to hearing.
Maybe it would be great for you to have a meeting, to discuss like what your experience is or.
Well, we park everybody at the park. And, it was fine unless it rained. And then it was a mess. And that's the way the fairgrounds is going to be. I don't care. That's a minor detail. I'm just trying to tell you that we have to support this, but also keep our distance. Because this is not a town function. So.
It's not a town function, but I think we have to allow it, and then we have to,
I said support it, but keep our distance. That's what I said. And I mean, allowing it is supporting it. Promoting it through our materials is fine. But getting financially involved in this, I think is wrong.
We don't expect you to get financially involved with
I
it.
know the other ones didn't either, but we did.
It's another event here. I know there was a big controversy in the village about the number of events, and at least with the fair, probably 50% of the people were in favor, another 50% thought it just was too much traffic. I don't know, what do we get out of this? I understand, that some people may stay over and it may help the merchants, but what do we get out of it?
What do you get out of it? So, as you already listed a couple of them. So it helps the merchants, some people may stay over. Many of the people from your community enjoy running, will likely participate in the full or half marathon. We will give discounts to everyone from Rhinebeck that signs up for the full or half marathon. We will be giving a donation to the town rec project park.
Maybe the general fund of the town might be better, but that's a controversy we'll have.
So we would definitely be interested in doing that, and would hope as this grows to then continue that. If there are
What kind
other
of
ways that,
contribution are you talking about?
well, we can discuss that. I'd like to hear what the plans are for different projects, what we could give. We're hoping to get 500. I could base upon that, then give you a number in our next proposal. Like, this would be the minimum donation. We could absolutely give you that. There would be a lot of people from the surrounding communities that would like to participate. There's a large running community, and providing that type of event for people to participate in, it does add a lot of value to individuals' lives and to your community.
Are there other towns around here that are doing marathons? Are we the...
Yes, there are, but across the river, like Kingston and the Catskills and things like that, yes, and they've only increased in popularity and in their growth over the years. I mean, I remember growing up, there was only the Mad Dash, and now there's the half and the 5K, and I would like to be the person to bring the full and the half.
My only.
could you please come, I'm sorry, Elaine, go ahead while we wait for.
My daughter asked me now.
You can't help it.
So much for that.
Who is your-
I'm
is this
Liz
your daughter?
Irwin, and I'm
This is my
Kyle's
mother.
community resource. And you asked what will the community get out of it? Well, what I see big time is that my daughter has moved back to the area that she loves, and what you get are people, young people who have grown up here, have moved away, they come back, and they give to your community. Volunteer-wise, whether Kyle settles here in Rhinebeck, so tax dollar-wise, this is what happens with young people. I was also her teacher, and many students that are grown and have their families, and what I'm seeing is that they've come back to our village, to our community. So that's what we get back. So it's what we've fostered from the time they were very young in this community. And I worked with Bruce for many years on the rec committee. What we provided for our young people, and that's what we've always spoken about for years and years and years, about giving to our young, providing program for families, and what do you get back? You get people who come back and want to live here in your community. So that is something else.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mom.
My only concern is some of these roads are very, very narrow. You can barely fit 2 cars down these roads. I like the idea of supporting a marathon for sure, but I know what it's like. I know what it's like as a driver living in Rhinecliff on Morton Road. I take that way to work every day. I mean, these are very, very narrow roads. So if runners are on those roads, it's going to be impossible for traffic going either, like, and it is, I have to say, like, I've been in the car, I've been a driver on River Road with marathon runners, and I'm just like, oh, it's really hard because you almost have to stop in some cases. Like, it really is frustrating. So my only concern is that I think some of these roads are really too narrow to expect the drivers to accommodate it.
So
if it's a lot of people. I don't mind the wider roads,
right,
but some of these roads
and I
are
think
almost one ways they should be.
We're not settled on a course route.
Yeah, I think we've made that clear, that she's going to come up with a course that...
No, I'm just
that the
letting her
police
know in advance
department-
because I'm seeing all these streets on this grid.
And emergency services.
And so I just want to make it clear that all of these streets I'm seeing, these are like almost one-way streets they should be, because they're that narrow.
I think this is a placeholder, wouldn't you say? I mean, Kyle has not met with emergency services and police, Sergeant Dunn, and I've spoken
I
with
get that,
Pete,
but I'm coming from the
and
perspective of a driver who's had to drive down those roads with marathon
I've spoken
runners.
with Pete, and he'll work with her on coming up with something that
I
works for the
understand that, right.
community.
So I think if it's on roads that are wide enough to accommodate it, I don't have a problem with it, but that's my only concern.
Some of the roads you were talking about, the thought was if we totally closed off, and this may not be possible, so no one gasp. Yeah, never mind. If we were to close off one road, maybe it would contain all the runners to one area, so then it wouldn't block off another main route for cars, so everyone could still get to all the different access points they would want, except for the unhappy people who live on that road, absolutely, for that period of time. But so that was part of the thought process in the latest update that you guys are seeing right now, is to say, okay, well, if we closed off this one area, but then that kept all of Mount Ruxton open. That was my idea. So I'm just trying to show Sergeant Dunn different ideas to then hear what works best, what's too narrow, what cannot happen, and then we'll go from there.
Kathy, did you have a question or?
Yes, thank you. It's also related to the roads. How far in advance are you committed to having a final route? I haven't heard of this event yet until tonight. It's the first day. By the way, I'm Kathy Kinsella, Town Highway Superintendent. And I've been involved when we were planning many of the other marathons, halves that went on with that, but I haven't heard about this one yet. So I'd like to be able to put our input in, the department's input into that as well, because May is fairly early as well for a marathon, and our spring cleanup and maintenance that has to happen after the winter, a lot depends on how protracted, such as last winter, is in terms of the street sweeping that we do, because you don't want to be running on streets that still have sand and debris on them. That probably won't be safe for your runners. We, don't know what we might have to do in terms of the shoulder work that has to happen. These are things that need to be taken into consideration. I also see that you're looking at county roads, and I don't think the county's been brought in on that, which will also have possible maintenance concerns. We may know of something that's happened on a road or work we may need to do that will take a road out of commission to you. So I urge you to please and get in touch with me and include me in the process as well with this. Highway Department should always be involved in anything that's going on the road, so thank you.
Thanks. I guess you're looking for some kind of buy-in from the board so you can proceed.
Well, yes, if the board said you cannot hold this event in this town, then we would be dead in the water. So this is to say, these are our ideas. This is the initial conversations we've started having. I met with Sergeant Dunn. He said at the next meeting, Kathy, that he would bring in all those different parties. So I also don't want to overstep my bounds and meet with the wrong person
It's
first.
just happened. I just met with Kyle
like
Thursday, right? Yeah.
So he said at the next meeting, he would bring in all those different players, and then we would all, put it up on the whiteboard, look at the different ideas, and come to a different event. I worked on races out in California for the entire last race season, and I can tell you that one race I worked on, 3 days before the race, the entire course was changed because there was an issue with the fire department, and they decided to change the entire course. So I get that this is a process.
This is a profit-making thing, this company, what is this company?
My company?
Yeah, it's EFAT.
For Exploration, Adventure, and Travel, we do marathon services for established marathons, organizing for individuals and for clubs. We do our own, we're a year old. We do our own international trips to Peru and Patagonia, and then we'd like to have one home base marathon, which would be this.
And you've put on marathons before?
I have worked as a co-race director with other race directors. This would be the race that I would want to direct. Yes.
Now, would you coordinate with organizations like the Hudson Valley Roadrunners Club?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we would, everyone within a 200-mile radius, all the race, like all the run club leaders, they all get comped entries. Then everyone from their club get discounted entries. We would bring them in a lot of times, as I've seen before, the run clubs work a certain aid station, with all the Gatorade and all the goos, and they make it their own, and then you have a captain, and the captain's the person that then we coordinate and communicate with. So it's a big thing to put together, so we need enough time to make sure that we do everything correctly and that it's well thought.
I think I'm going to poll the board now. We get the gist of this and see that there's support here, so you can go on, continue having your meetings, and come back and report to us, and we can see if we can. Should we have a?
I'm for it.
Yeah, as long as my only concern
Great.
was that, right.
Great. Joe?
I guess I would not like to see it on a date where the fairgrounds is having something. I think there was a lot of traffic this weekend
All right.
on this living thing, so I'd like to be assured that you're not going to have it when the fair is doing something.
Alan?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, so I think we're all for it. You've heard Elaine's concerns about road widths and Joe's concerns about fairground availability. So I think with that, go ahead and have your meetings and come back to us. Be in touch with me, and I'll help you in any way I can. But thank you.
All right, thank you.
And thank you to your community outreach sponsors. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get the county to pave
Okay.
Mill Road.
Moving along here. Suzanne Kelly with our cemetery committee for this is presentation night.
Mine's going to be so much shorter than it was going to be. I know.
That's great.
Loving you even more tonight. Good night. Thank you.
Thanks.
So I had planned to address two issues. I'll just let you know what they were. One was that you folks had asked me to check on the trust accounts, the cemetery trust accounts. I have done that. I've spoken with several different attorneys who have given me several different answers, but we are getting the final written answer. very soon. So I should be reporting probably at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what question
Trust
is this?
accounts.
The trust accounts, the two accounts that are sitting in the general fund that were transferred over with the association in 2002.
This is
We
the
raised this-
perpetual
The perpetual care and the
care,
permanent maintenance
funds?
funds. The two funds, yep. And then the other had to do with the deed restriction for the Green Burial Council application that Warren Raplansky is still researching. We got a partial
A late
decision
breaking, we got a
yeah, so
late breaking
I'm
email.
gonna wait on that also.
Okay, so you'll come back for that.
I just wanted to give you a few minor updates before I interview Aaron to do the greenhouse gas emissions. One is that the Friends, 5 red oaks were donated to the Friends that will be planted in the Grassmere section. They were donated by John Labotsky's sister. John will be planting them. Joanne Clark donated to have them planted. They are slated to be planted in an area. We already have a green plan that was passed by the town board
Right.
several years ago. So they'll actually be planted right by the mausoleum. So those are going in this week. The 4 signs that you passed remember you passed the signs, remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, they're going in, I believe, next week also. And natural burial is very popular. I think we sold 6 plots. We're in the process of selling 6 plots, yeah, so that's really fast. And the cemetery subcommittee, the tree committee met, and we are setting up a tree planting plan for the old part of the cemetery, at least one section of it. Actually, the cemetery is so big that we're going to sort of do it piece by piece. So that preliminary sketch I'll be bringing to you probably within maybe 1 or 2 meetings to have that passed. So I think that's enough. Oh, there was one other thing, actually, I want to bring up. And it has to do with getting an email address for our caretaker, Gary Slater.
I think,
Not just an address, he has no internet access. This has been an
Yes.
issue. And it really is an issue in terms of communications for us and the committee. It's, I have to reach him by cell phone. It's the only way that I can correspond with him. I can't send him information from the committee. I have to send it to a private address. So if there's a way that we could get internet access to that.
I think the town board has to agree to put the service in,
Yeah.
which I'm for. He is slated, we can get him a computer with our
Well, we have a computer.
grant.
He has a
and-
computer.
And
He needs access.
he needs internet access.
Yeah.
Alan, you want to look at that and give us a number?
Call Frontier. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
phone call.
I'll work
it's
on
kind
it
of
with.
a necessary thing.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys agree? Is everyone in agreement on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so whether he does that or Bobby does
He
that.
won't do it, I know that. I know he won't do it. So if there's some other way that we can
I
get
mean,
it.
is there a phone there already?
There's a phone there, yes.
And, yeah,
There's a
then
computer.
it's, then
Yeah.
there's no wiring, all they gotta do is wave their magic wand to put in a modem.
Great, so who will take
Will
care
he,
of it?
will he use it? Is he,
Yes, he'll use it, yeah. He's asked for it many times over the years, and
he has a computer, or he?
he has a computer in the office. But also, for the natural burial, for instance, I have people calling me at home.
No, we're aware of it. We
Yeah,
need to do
so
it.
it'd be really, really important that he can correspond with people by email. He hasn't been able to do that. Okay, that's my cemetery report, so I can move on to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, so in 2010, the village and the town came together and signed the DEC's Climate Smart Communities Pledge. And one of the first tasks that we needed to do was to come up with an inventory, a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. It's now 2014. We found a wonderful intern to do this for us. Aaron Barclay, who is going to be a junior at Lehigh University. And you actually got credit for this, right? Yeah, through one of your courses. So I will leave it to you to give the presentation.
Hi everybody, I said I'm Erin Barkley. I'm a student at Lehigh, and I did this as an internship last fall. So, as she says, through the Climate Smart Communities Pledge, it's joined 73 other New York local governments committing.
You can get closer to the
climate change.
microphone.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I guess so. There's just like a couple graphs that I could show you guys.
Let's see.
There's just a couple graphs and data, but I can
yeah.
just send them separately if that works.
Hopefully. Keep talking.
So like she said, the first step was to create a baseline. So we were working with VHB. They developed a tool for these inventories. So you input all of the use of gas and electricity, diesel, and then it gives you all of the emissions that that causes, so CO2, NH4, stuff like that. So the process that we went through, you can do scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. We decided to do scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 is a little more complicated. So scope 1 covers stationary energy use, as well as purchased electricity, heating, cooling, steam, all of those things, and mobile emissions from vehicles. What scope 3 would cover would be employee commuting, emissions from government-related activities, and things that are contracted out, such as we don't have a landfill, so this would cover the emissions that are caused by trash that we ship out to other places. So even though the emissions aren't really occurring in Rhinebeck, they're kind of the sources from here. And the way that this calculates is in CO2 equivalency. Okay, great. Yeah. If you just go to the, I guess the fifth one is good.
That's good.
I got all that stuff. You the next one. So that's the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Like I said, I just did 1 and 2, which is direct use and purchased use. And then scope 3 would be employee commuting and contracted out services. So the tool that we used was developed through VHB, which is a private company. You put in all of the data and it gives you the emissions sources. So just one example would be like 1 megawatt per hour is equal to 0.226 metric tons of CO2 equivalency. And CO2 equivalency, it could be NH4 or CH4, but the global warming equivalent of that in CO2 measurements. Yeah, next one. So this is the data that we got. As you can see, the highway department, both town and village, were higher up, and that all just depends on how much they're doing. It's just kind of the nature of different departments, kind of how much they're using. So the total came out to 920 metric tons of CO2 equivalent, and that's equal to the carbon sequestered by 754 acres of U.S. forests in a year, or 100,000 gallons of gasoline consumed. Just kind of to give you an idea of how much that is. It's kind of an abstract number, not really sure. A lot of people don't know exactly what that means. You can go to the next one. So this just, again, shows the percentage by department, how much each is using. And again, it's just kind of the nature of each department, how much it's going to be. So then the last part is just results and future work. So the goal of the baseline is just to have something to compare future work to, kind of see where we are now, see what can be improved. The VHB, the company that we were working with, said this is pretty much average data for a town of this size. So that was good feedback. And for going forward, continuing the inventories will show how the town is changing, if we're improving, if we're becoming more energy efficient, hopefully not less energy efficient. Any growth, so if a new building is put in or something like that, you would want to make sure that's considered in the baseline. You maybe wouldn't want to include that building in the baseline, or at least be sure that you're still looking at the totals. If a whole new building is added, you can't expect to be reducing. Also going forward, you might want to consider doing some scope 3 research to see what the effect of employee commute is, how much the garbage that we're shipping out is contributing to emissions, even if it's not in the town. And then the other major thing is using these results to reduce emissions. So a lot of what the Climate Smart Communities is focusing on is energy efficiency. So any ways that you can use more advanced technologies that use less energy or fuels that burn cleaner, advanced systems for the mobile fleets, investing in better gas mileage or stuff like that. Everything contributes. A lot of this, when I was putting in the numbers, it's a lot of small things that just add up to the larger total. So even if something seems kind of small, it can add up, especially over time. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have. Yes.
Should we turn the lights on?
Do you guys have any questions?
When would we want to look at this, or what's the next step if we want to, try and reduce our footprint? Would we, if we get a new boiler, I'm thinking that'll be something great, so we could periodically recheck it.
Yeah.
So you provided us with some good base data.
Yeah, and the tool that they developed, BHB, it's pretty easy to use. It's pretty user-friendly.
Great.
And I think we were one of the first ones to use this new, they updated it, so we're one of the first ones to use it. So there are a couple of things that, that I talked to them about and stuff that they changed, so it's pretty user-friendly.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah. How long did it take you to do this?
They had already compiled a lot of the data, so a lot of the reaching out to different departments, they had already done.
I did a lot of,
Yeah.
So we combine that. How many
Well, really, the point of the question is if we did it again, how much work are we talking about?
To do it again, since you're
We can open a window, too.
repeating the process, it would definitely be easier going around a second time.
Because this is already set up.
Yeah.
A lot of it's setting up, you can plan on a lot of it's setting up on the computer.
Yeah, a lot of it is inputting all these things into the program, and then you could just change the numbers. for
Okay,
each
we've
of
captured all that.
Yeah.
My impression is some of the data is pretty old, right? The 3-4 years.
We used the 2010-2011 data.
So are you thinking that the PV isn't included? That your solar panels aren't included, Joe?
Yeah, are they?
Changes after that.
Pardon me?
We made a lot of changes after that.
Oh, so
okay.
so the solar panels are not included in this audit, so we should be a lot less CO2-y than what we even think.
These Kathy, these new trucks that we're buying for the highway department, are they more fuel efficient and less?
Different fuel reduction restraints that are put on them every year. Basically, every time you're buying a new model, the emissions of it. So the older stuff is the stuff that's contributing, more problematic.
Low sulfur fuel.
Yeah.
They only idle for 3 minutes and they automatically shut off.
Suzanne, is this something we could update with the solar, with our PV info, or?
Yes, if we had someone who could do it, who would do it.
Right, my impression is that it's really been tough to get volunteers to work on this. This is a committee of one person, Suzanne,
And Miranda Parry.
and Miranda. And
Two-woman
Miranda, are you going to
committee.
continue with this, or?
Actually, Ryan's going to speak to this.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, Erin, thank you very much for your work on this. This
Thanks,
is
great job.
fantastic. We appreciate it.
Good luck with your career.
Yeah. I think we have next, unless there's any other questions or comments for the Energy Task Force, and thank you again, Miranda and Suzanne. I think we have Ryan Dowden from the CAB here to talk about internships and community choice aggregate briefly, which we are going to, I hope we're ready to vote on that today. Oh, and Jessica Scott, thanks for coming. That's the, yeah, you want the fan down? Yeah, it's fine. I think we blew out a lot of the...
Good evening, Board. Ryan Dowden, Conservation Advisory Board. It says on the agenda internship. We're going to sort of change that a slight bit because there's just been some very recent communication with the chair of the Town of Red Hook CAC. Originally, the Town of Red Hook CAC chairwoman, Lori Husted, reached out to the Town of Rhinebeck CAB and sort of communicated to us that they had just recently acquired an intern with BARD, and was wondering if we would like to sort of use his knowledge and research capabilities and skills. We discussed it at our last CAB meeting, and we were interested. I met with Lori, and through that discussion, it was kind of decided that the CAB should wait because there is a $1,000, we have to commit $1,000 to sort of have this intern skills and research and et cetera. So we're going to wait. There's also a timestamp on this intern. He's only available until August 1st. So we felt between the work that he was doing up in Red Hook and then to add on, it would just be a little bit overwhelming for him. And so we're going to sort of wait until the fall when we could possibly get a grad student who might be more capable, maybe more up to the task, and move forward. However, we would like to ask that we come back with a resolution to create a budget line item within our budget for interns and or consultants. I know we can work on the language of what that line item would be in our budget, but we don't have any lines in our budget that would be appropriate if we were to have an intern or a consultant help us out.
Budget time's coming up, so we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add that we have someone in Rhinebeck who's a professor at the Bard Center for Environmental Policy, and she has said, if you want interns, we have, between Lori and our Bard Rhinebeck people, it's something that's been offered and,
Right, and also
out there.
I can let Jess also explain. There are some other interns through another office within BARD that might be able to help. I can let her explain more about that.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hi, guys. I'm Jess Scott from the Conservation Advisory Board. I'm also with Citizens for Local Power, so I'll follow up on the CCA discussion as well. So I also worked up until very recently for the Center for Environmental Policy and can liaise with that professor who lives here in town. We'd be happy to commit some graduate student time to this, and this seems like a project that's more appropriate for a graduate student anyhow. To follow up both on, I'm
sorry, what is the project? Is there a specific project that you're looking at, or you haven't put one
Sure.
together yet?
So as part of the Climate Smart Communities pledge that we signed, there are a couple of there are maybe 12 different measures of things that we could look at. And what Lori Husted is looking at in Red Hook with the CAC right now is mitigation efforts, which is just one of the many measures that we need to meet to be in compliance with this this pledge that we signed. So that's just one particular project. However, we're also interested in discussing the possibility for future solar development, solar gardens specifically, which there's funding for here on town-owned land. So this project could be defined in fitting with what's going on with climate smart communities, and again, with the metrics that we need to meet moving forward. This is also the sort of thing that if we were interested in establishing, taking this baseline that was established and redoing it in repeated years, this is a project that could be ongoing with the Center for Environmental Policy. This is certainly something that students there would be interested in. So this would be a great way to foster some added relationships between both the Conservation Advisory Board, the town of Rhinebeck at the Village, and our energy future a little bit. So we'll be interested in looking at that moving forward. In addition, I was speaking with Suzanne, and as an incredibly active person here in this town, she's not finding that there's a lot of time that's being committed to the Energy Task Force specifically. It's a committee of 2 right now. And so something that we'd be interested in talking about is rolling the responsibilities of that committee back in under the Conservation Advisory Board. I would take the lead on that, and based on my relationships with BART and the Center for Environmental Policy, also my background working specifically with energy issues, it may make sense to roll that pledge back under the jurisdiction of the Conservation Advisory Board. And starting in the fall, probably around September, I would take control of kind of that aspect of what we're doing here in the town. So that's something that we're interested in, something that is supported based on our initial conversations, something that we would be interested in doing.
Fantastic.
Cool. So, Ryan, do you have anything else about that?
No, I was just, the next thing is the community choice aggregation.
That's on our agenda for tonight.
Support. We would just also like to add that there is a letter for organizations, and the CAB has already filled out that letter and signed it, and we will be sending it to the respected elected officials, Assemblyman Cahill, Senator Terry Gibson, pledging our support for the community choice aggregation.
Thank you.
As the representative that's here for Citizens for Local Power, I can answer, or at least try to answer any further questions about that, which is a little bit further down on the agenda.
Are you, well, we can take it out of order, too. Are you guys, Ryan, are you done? Did you have anything else for us?
So do you need to do something official to, like, sort of dissolve the Energy Task Force and move this over to the CAB?
I don't think right now. I think you're talking about the fall, and we'll look into
Okay.
it. I guess, who's the liaison to that?
Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why we necessarily have to wait. It sounds like you would like to give up
I'm ready. I am
that,
so ready.
And I think the CAC is
I stand
saying...
corrected.
Is
The
saying
enthusiasm
that,
over here.
that they are willing to take
Yes.
it over, so I don't know why we just don't do it.
Do we
And-
need to, we'll prepare a resolution for the next...
And Elizabeth, a note on that, the transfer of information and power would wait until the fall, so for the summer, further questions would still be directed towards Suzanne.
Whatever works for you, Suzanne. Yeah, in this instance, yes. Joe, you'll look into how to transfer that, and we'll get a resolution or whatever we need for the next meeting?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a yes. All right, Ryan, thanks. If you're done with us, thank you, and thank you for supporting the community aggregate. I'm going to, let's move on to our resolutions unless liaison reports, if anybody has any. Colleen?
Mine all presented.
Okay, good for you. Clean sweep, you're good. Bruce?
I've been worn down.
You're Alan?
Nothing. Yeah.
Joe?
No.
I am briefly going to say, and I talked to Joe about this, when I first took office, I thought that the statutory board should answer directly to the town board, and finding that maybe we need to think about getting liaisons back to them, that answering to the town board means everyone's coming to me. So I leave that with you guys to think about, and maybe, I'd like to get some input from you, but I'm thinking we might need a little bit more communication with these. I think the highway, although Kathy's here all the time, you never minded having I don't want to speak for you, a liaison to help you. Thank you.
I'm going to reach out to all of you anyway.
Yeah, but I'm just, I guess I'm feeling that it's either not getting done, or and I'm not being disparaging on these boards at all. I talk to Michael, chairs daily, but it would be good to have some help. There are a couple of little bumps. So I leave that with you, and let's think about it, and we'll move towards it. That's my only, there is one other thing. Our head of emergency services, Henry Campbell, reached out to me about the growing incidence of accidents on Slate Quarry Road. He's asked me to petition the county as the supervisor to call their attention to this. He's written an overview of it to me that I'm going to forward to Kathy. Kathy's going to add input. I'm going to get more data from the police departments and make a formal request to the county to look at, whether it's micro resurfacing, banking, or smoothing it out, because I think in the last month, the fire department was down there 2 or 3 times one day for several car accidents pretty much in Michael's front yard. So that's something I'm going to be working on.
Look, in that connection, I did get a inquiry from somebody on for Salisbury Turnpike who thought the speed limit is too high.
Is that a county road, Kathy? That's a county road.
So I don't know.
We have no jurisdiction over that.
Right. It's the same, though, issue.
The process is the county would want still, if the town is interested in having the county review a speed limit on its county.
Can you, I'm sorry to make you do this, but.
I'm like a jumping bean up and down tonight. Sorry, the process for that would be if the town is concerned about a county road speed limit within the town, the county would prefer that the town do a resolution asking that the speed limit be reviewed or considered for reduction. The county has the ability to set their own speed limits, unlike towns, which do not have the ability to set our own speed limits. But they want an official correspondence, an official notice from the board.
Do you have an opinion about that particular road?
On Salisbury?
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it yet.
Thank you.
I think we could ask that it be reviewed. I think Slate Quarry, that's really, we know that there are problems
There have been fatalities, there's
right.
accident
So
after
there,
accident.
I think we should ask for a reduction, and we could do a letter.
Not even reduction, I think we're looking at banking and maybe even straightening out in some instances. We're looking for some road work.
Okay.
We don't know. I'm going to meet with Kathy and Henry to work on a draft letter, and
I just do want to point out that as the highway superintendent, I have communicated in the past several occasions with the county drawing their attention to the problems on Slate Quarry Road. We, a while back, had hosted a meeting with county representatives and local residents out there. Some signage improvements were made. When the new commissioner came on board, was about 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I reached out to her in letter and also in person.
how'd that go?
I haven't had a response.
Okay, well, we'll get behind you and see if we can make some more noise. Specifically, the fire departments and emergency services have said, this is a problem, we need to do something about it. So if we have to go to the county, executive, we will.
So Elizabeth, in that thing you're drafting, you can put Salisbury Turnpike to be looked at.
No, that'll be a separate letter. This is for this one specific issue.
Okay, now who's going to do the letter for Salisbury Turnpike?
I don't know.
So should I do it?
Leave it with Kathy and I for a minute.
I think, though, the difference between, the difference, in my mind, between Salisbury and Slate Quarry at the moment is there's documented evidence of accident rates on County Road 19, as well as a history of correspondence and reaching out. I don't know where to tell you to start with this, Joe, because I have no other information on. I haven't heard any previous complaints about, CR 52 at all.
Right, but I thought one of the things we could ask them is to look at the speed limit. We're not advocating anything, we just want it to be looked at.
And I think they're probably going to come back at you and say, where are your accidents, on what is the basis of your request? So that's why I'm saying I think you might want to reach out to Traffic Safety Board or something first and do some research before you draft such a letter.
So you'll guide me.
Sure, give me a call. My door is always open to you.
Okay.
Aye.
Moving along, I'm going to take this out of order. I'm going to go to our community choice aggregate first, which is coming back the second time. I hope everybody read it. And then Ray, thank you for staying. We'll go to the resolution number 6 after that. So resolution number 2, 2014-240, approving a letter in support of the New York State Legislator Bill A8883 and the Senate Bill 7087 on community choice aggregation. Do I have a motion
Motion.
and a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? For the public, last month, I think on the 12th, was it? When did we have our last meeting? Yeah, May 12th, we had the Citizens for, I'm sorry. Thank you. Local Power, I'm having a brain freeze, come and ask us to sign on in support of this community choice aggregation, which is basically, as I understand it, it's a way for us to get more control over our energy choices for our community. It's being sponsored by Kevin Cahill in the Assembly and by Senator Gibson in the Senate.
Yeah.
So
my
we tabled this the last time because people had not read their mail, and I hope you've read it in the past month. And any questions, or Alan?
Yeah, my understanding is this is enabling. It doesn't require us to do anything. All it does is allows us to put together a co-op.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're signing on in support that
Yes.
this legislation go through. Is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I abstain, I don't understand it.
So moved. Thank you. So we'll send that out. Jessica Scott.
Thanks. We appreciate this as a member of Citizens for Local Power as well. We have been getting a lot of organizations to sign on, including the Conservation Advisory Board in town. I'm not sure when the appropriate time is. I just wanted to put the Unified Solar Permit back on your guys' radar.
Right.
So just briefly, the Unified Solar Permit is a NYSERDA application that allows, if your solar installation meets 4 distinct criteria, for it to go through a faster solar permitting process. This is just a NYSERDA permit. Those 4 criteria are that the array is under 12, under 12 kilowatts. No historical review is required, that no zoning variance is required, and that it's rooftop mounted. So if you happen to receive an application that met all 4 of those criteria, the Unified Solar Permit would allow that permit to get approved by NYSERDA. And
Could you help me get this together for presentation at the next town board
definitely,
meeting?
we were going to talk about it at the Conservation Advisory
Great.
Board, do the legwork. Just as a point of note, there's money associated with it right now, just $2,500 for accepting the permit, and that money is running out because a lot of communities have chosen to say, yeah, we're
Right.
down with this permit.
So if we could get it, we could possibly get $2,500 and streamline permitting for people who meet the criteria here in
Precisely.
Rhinebeck. That would
Yeah.
be fantastic.
These are for private installations.
Yes.
Yes, these are for private
The
installations.
streamline permitting.
From the 6 to 8 week standard to a 1 to 2 week standard for things that meet
Great,
these
so
1
we'll
to
try
2.
and get that on for the next. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you.
There's presentations for it up on the NYSERDA at Nanotech University. A couple of years ago, they did a whole bunch of these things. It's a huge problem, Michael.
Okay, so resolution number 2014-239, approving our preliminary account abstract payables, vouchers of 597 through 692, 67 checks totaling $83,728.61. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Resolution number 3, 2014-241, establishing a petty cash fund, $120 for the concession stand petty cash. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Let's go to Ray's here, right, for the, I'm sorry, I'm losing, resolution number 6, 214-244, setting contract negotiation terms for cell phone tower. This is tab 6. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
For the public, we have had, Joe, would you like to introduce this?
Yeah, we've had discussions with Homeland Towers, a cell phone constructor of towers, and they've presented us with certain economic terms that would go into a contract. The contract has not been drafted yet. It will be drafted, but we need the go-ahead from the board as to whether these principal economic terms would be acceptable, but the board will have to look at an actual contract. But Homeland wants to know if these terms will be acceptable. I have reviewed the recent other contracts that Homeland has done. Ours are certainly within the ballpark. I've looked at the village contract. This one is better, but the village contract was done a number of years ago, so it may be due to town. I've spoken to John Lyons, and from his experience, he says we're in the ballpark.
Great.
So I think we should go ahead and approve it, and then we'll get a contract from Homeland, and their representative and I have had a good time negotiating so far.
Just for the public, this is an acceptance of terms and does in no way say that the project still has to go through a planning and zoning
Yes.
review. So I just want to make that clear. Whatever needs to be done, whatever type action it is, it will go through. But Homeland does not want to commit to a lengthy review process if we are not in agreement on contract terms. So just to be very clear about this. And we'd be agreeing to a 30-year term with monthly rent of the greater of $1,875 a month, or 25% of gross revenue in case there's subletting. Again, I don't know what the correct term of it is, leasing out. 3% annual escalation on the 1875 or the 25% gross.
No, I don't think on the 25%. I think the escalation is only on the 1875.
Okay, only on that. And then there are two.
I'm correct on that, right?
No, actually, it would go up on the gross rents because we write into our contracts that we receive a percentage that go up for each
So it's escalation on any whichever is the greatest
Right, the
income for us.
25% doesn't escalate, or
Yes.
does it?
25% doesn't.
Oh, okay, so the amount will.
State the Homeland would escalate with the typical 3%
Oh,
escalation
okay.
as well.
Well, because we would get a rent based on the 25%, so there would be an escalation on that,
Right, I
whatever
thought
that figure is.
there was some confusion as to whether the 25% escalates. That does not escalate.
No, but the amount that it represents
After what we own the
would.
company.
So also, we have
Go
two.
above 100%.
We have two option periods. One is the first 24 months, I guess, while you're going through the process, would be $1,500, and then the second option for 12 months would be $1,000, and you would pay towards our attorney fees for $1,000. Are
Would
there any?
the option start after the approval, or the option is during the approval process?
The option starts upon full execution of the lease. That's the option period. That's when the first initial option period starts. That's 24-month option.
So it's the signing of the lease.
Elizabeth.
One second, thank you. Nancy, did you have a question?
Yes. If
Could you
don't
just
mind,
introduce yourself for everybody?
I'm Nancy Kelly. I'm Rhinebeck Town historian, and I have been traveling around the country and noticing cell towers and having concerns about cell tower in Rhinebeck. Particularly, I think that having the cell tower on public land is a good thing for us to be striving for, but also that we don't want to have a proliferation of cell towers, so that if our contract is allowing more than one company to have a facility on the tower, that would be the ideal.
That's what I believe this is for, and our very excellent planning board already, is involved in this and would, I'm sure, they are working with visual people who do the visual impacts and who can guide us through this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm in trouble here because I've been going out of order all over the place, and I thank you, Ray, for coming. Yeah. Resolution, item tab number 5 for our truck proposal. You guys have been thank you for coming, patient. Resolution 214, 243, which is tab number 5. Highway Department truck replacement proposal. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? For the public, we have our highway superintendent here who will take us through this proposal for a truck replacement. Take it away, Kathy.
Thank you. I submitted to the board over a week ago a proposal to replace our truck R11. R11 is a 1990 Ford L8000. It's the oldest truck in our fleet. It's 24 years old, and it's about 10 years behind its anticipated replacement, according to our capital equipment plan. It's recently failed a DMV inspection on 3 counts, basically steering, front end, and the service brake system. We estimate that the repairs on that truck, just for those items, to bring it back into compliance, would be between $15,000 and $20,000. In addition to that, we're aware of a problem with the front steering axle, and we've been monitoring that condition closely. We've been talking about that for a couple of years, like waiting for impending doom with that piece to go. And that would be, we estimate that repair would probably exceed an additional $20,000. So we're looking at about $35,000 to $40,000 worth of repairs into a truck that has probably a value currently based on machinetrader.com and eBay and other research that we've been able to do. If it went out to bid, other comparable trucks in the same condition are going anywhere from $1,500 to $7,000. So we're talking about putting $40,000 worth of repairs into a truck that's worth, significantly less than that. I am recommending that we replace this truck as soon as possible. We know from last year that it can take about 6 months to get a truck. We don't want to be in the same position that we were in.
When did we order last year?
I think we ordered in July.
So we have a wing and a prayer of getting
And it was late. It did run late. That should not happen. But we want to make sure that we do get this truck in, because the strain of using, other trucks to try and fill that gap, we saw again what happened last year with using older trucks not designed for that or no longer designed for that. They broke down constantly. We had increased overtime for equipment repairs. Our mechanic, Bob Roush, had to come in on weekends to fix those. So, every time you don't replace your equipment in a timely fashion, in accordance with a plan, you're going to incur equipment repair costs. I am recommending that we replace R11 with a dual reel axle, a 10-wheeler as we know it, with a combo body that's similar to the truck that we purchased, one of the 2 trucks that we purchased last year. The reason that I'm recommending that truck and that style truck is the larger hauling size allows us to reduce trips when we're bringing materials back and forth. Snow and ice control, the larger capacity results in fewer reloads back at the department. The configuration is complementary with our paver, and we can carry more blacktop. It increases the efficiency for our road construction projects. And the towing capacity, again, we do have one now that would have the same towing capacity, but it never hurts to have that extra towing capacity on site. I do estimate that, by the way, we've researched the contracts that are available, and that's the reason that this isn't coming forward to you tonight within the actual contract, is we've identified 2 different contracts, and we're not yet sure which is the most, 3 contracts, thank you. We're not sure yet which is the most advantageous, but I need the authority to be able to go ahead to start speccing out trucks in order to be able to make that determination. So it's sort of what comes first, the chicken or the egg question. I need to be able to know know we're going forward before I could spec out. I need to spec out before I can come back with the final proposal of, here's the contract we want to go off, and here's a final, or at least closer dollar amount. I am estimating that the cost of this truck is going to be in the ballpark around up to $225,000. So that is where we are on the third page, and they are in your packets, but I also know that you got it a week ago. Page 3 is a funding proposal for the truck. It's a lot of money. We know that's a lot of money, but I do think that we have that money. We have in the 2014 equipment budget, we have $60,000. I would say that we should use the complete balance of that budget line. There is a rollover balance, a small rollover balance from CHIPS money, as well as the winter recovery money that was added into a CHIPS apportionment for this year. I checked twice with the CHIPS people to make sure that a truck would be eligible for that, and it would. So between the rollover balance and the 2014 increased allocation, I think we have an additional $90,000 that we can put toward this. There is some balance remaining in the Highway Capital Equipment Fund. I think it's about $24,000. I think we should use $20,000 of that. And then we would go into the fund balance for the rest, which would, based on $225,000 purchase price, would be in the area of $55,000. I do hope that that price comes down, therefore meaning the amount that we would go into fund balance for would come down. So basically 60, 90, 20, and 55 brings us to the 225. So again, I think I tried to show you that the funding is there to purchase this. We certainly need this truck. This is a one-for-one replacement. This is a truck we will use all year round. We will use this in construction as well. The truck that it's replacing is now currently got a sander on it all year. It does not have a dump body. The new truck that we would have would actually be able to use it not just for the snow plowing in the winter, which we desperately need, but also be a construction vehicle for us in the summer. Are there any questions that I can answer?
You have a ton of money in your, you have quite a bit of money in the fund balance, so even if we went over a little bit, we'd be fine.
I believe so. I believe that the fund balance, based on the closing year balance of 12/31/13, there was $356,000, but $80,000 was
has been
appropriated
covered, yep.
for the 2014 budget, so that would leave $276. There are some other, it was pointed out, actually Bruce pointed it out, that there were probably some expenses that haven't been allocated into that. I estimate that's probably going to be around $15,000 or so. But that would still leave us with a healthy, we'd have a balance in the part-town fund balance, probably still well over 15 or around 15% of our annual budget,
We would
which is,
still have
I think,
about $300,000 in there.
yeah, I think that's certainly within the comptroller's guidelines.
The statement that says using 55,000 of the part-town fund balance, is that highway part-town?
Yes.
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 Because up above it, it says,
It just says fund balance, yeah, but it's highway part-town.
so that's purely highway.
Yes.
Okay.
Still leaves us a nice, healthy fund balance in there.
Well, remember, we use a lot of the fund balance to, in the past, balance the budget, so.
Is it?
This is part-town highway.
Yeah, so I wouldn't, it's very important that we maintain a fund balance in there because it helps balance our budget.
We've got a pretty healthy, all of our 4 funds are pretty healthy. Well over, the controller, again, states a reasonable amount, and they say about 5 to 10, 5%. They won't give you a number, but they seem to skate around that. Any questions, any further questions, comments? Bruce, Elaine, Joe, Alan?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer.
So, I'm
They promised the R11 would last a number of years. They met that promise. I think it was a good move on our part not to get the truck 3 years ago. We got the life out of this truck. Won't pass inspection, so you got to do something.
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What are you going to do with the old truck?
Yes, when we will, at the appropriate time, because we have to go through it first, and we'll see what other possible uses for pieces of it that we may have, or we'll see what the best thing to do. I'll come back with a proposal on that of either getting rid of it, putting it out to bid. We'll make that determination after we get through the ordering process with this
When are
one.
you going to have a contract? I'm just concerned about getting it ordered. I'm sure
You
you're
will,
more concerned than I am.
now that
but-
you're on board.
Okay.
Right, and we're going to meet with the, we'll call it and we'll start actually specking
If
it
you'd
out.
like a special meeting, we have a couple of things we could do, rather than wait 2 weeks, I'd be, we'll
That would be
pull the
great.
plug at once.
That would be very helpful,
just
actually.
don't- yeah.
We will move as fast as we possibly can
We'll
on this.
keep in contact on this.
Think so? Maybe we'll talk tomorrow? Yeah, well, I'll come back again with a proposal for that. And when I do come back with proposals for getting rid of equipment, I am going to also, as part of that proposal, that the money go back into the highway equipment funds to start building that again, because we always have equipment
We'll just
needs.
have more
So we're
trucks.
always trying to build that up, because we do have about $1.5 million worth of equipment down at the highway department. If we don't maintain it and multiple pieces start to go all at once, we end up where we're
At least, we have 2 more trucks that are probably aging out, I think, in the near,
They're aging out, but I'm not looking at moving on those very quickly. I think that we probably have a chipper is probably one of our next priorities, and one of the smaller, it's still a large dump, but it'd be the smallest of large dumps that we'll look at, but I think we have a year or two on that, potentially.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Resolution, tab number 4, Resolution 2014-242, approving town hall usage application for the Girl Scouts. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
This is for the Girl Scouts, Troop 10279, to sell cookies out by the flagpole on the 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Against the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, am I, okay. I
You're on
think I'm-
tab 7?
I think I'm on tab 7, thank you.
3, tab 3?
Did I do tab 3? No, bear with me, you know how it gets
No, we
when I...
did tab 3.
We did tab 3, we're on tab 7.
The petty cash.
Resolution number 214-245, approving hiring for recreation summer camp and pool. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? For the public, our rec director is doing her best, working hard, and kids drop in, kids drop out. This is mostly an amendment, I understand, to pick up, replace people whose schedules are moving targets.
Back there if you have questions.
I don't. Would you like to come up? Do you have anything for us, Chris?
No, but I would like to talk to you about the next one.
Sure, come on up, and we'll vote on this, and then we'll go to that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thank you. Resolution 214-246, accepting a proposal for summertime recreation tennis instruction. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I guess the question is, how does this work? He uses...
Let's let Chris take us
Okay.
through. Yeah.
He put in a whole proposal for incorporating it into the whole town. What I am looking into is just incorporating it into the summer camp. What would happen is he would come in early in the morning so it wouldn't interfere with their swim lessons. He would give them the tennis lessons, the camp counselors would bring them to the lessons, bring them back to the camp. I have one question with that. What percentage do you want from him?
97%? Kidding.
Percent, you mean?
Of his fees.
How much he's going to pay us for use of the courts? Is that?
Right.
I mean, here's my issue. I think this is great for summer camp. This proposal looks like we're entering into a contract, so I would want
Yeah,
to,
no.
you know, that's too much. I think you're asking us to approve him giving lessons for summer camp only.
Right.
And,
And then if you are interested in doing what he
More,
wants,
we
then-
can
But the
negotiate.
only thing I want to know is it approved for the camp, and how much of a percentage will the town take?
I am confused here about what we're approving. If you could just give me a page number, because this resolution says that we're approving, and I think this is great. I think it'll be good for the camp, and you're in favor of it. The tennis lessons for camp.
Yes.
Because this is a multi-page
Yeah, it's. like-
proposal that goes all over the place. So what are we paying attention to, so for the clerk's records, we can be 1, 2, this is like 14 pages here. 1, 2, 3.
Well, Chris is looking for that. We tried this in the past. We did it on a contingency basis. Mark,
Why?
just, the coach was inconsistent in attending,
Oh, there you go.
so.
But the kids would be signing up in weekly blocks for this, Chris?
Yes.
And you'll know pretty quickly if it's working or it's not working.
It would be the, sorry. The
Would you make
third page preschool tennis, and then 10 and under tennis. And it would, Monday through Fridays, 9 to 10, that's under the preschool. Cost $18 per hour for residents and $21 for non-residents. Full week session, 75, and resident 90. 75 for resident, 90 for non-resident. And then it would be the same, the 10 and under tennis.
Chris, how many tennis courts do we have?
4.
Would this use up more than half the tennis courts? So I want to make sure the tennis courts are available for people who want to play tennis.
Well, if you wanted it just 2 courts to be used, I mean, that's something that we would work out.
What do you think, Bruce,
It's up to you.
in terms of other people using the courts?
Weekends, I could see it's heavily used. During the week,
There's nobody there.
it's not used very much. I don't really see it as an issue, and by the way, they consume the basketball court, they consume the volleyball
They
court.
consume everything.
Everything down there basically gets
It's all
consumed
wrecked.
when camp's running.
Is the camp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, I'm sorry, you had a suggestion for severing this into a...
I was just thinking maybe instead of trying to parse this particular proposal, just amend the resolution, authorize Chris to go back and negotiate specifically for the camp, decide on a percentage, and then she can come back with a contract that's just focused on that.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, is it
I would like-
acceptable time-wise?
Well, we'd probably need a special meeting.
Well,
Yeah.
but if we're okay with it,
Are you okay with the pricing, and you would have to tell me what your final offer is for the percentage? That's what I really need to
Do you have
know.
a recommendation?
I really
50/50?
The problem is, we don't
I don't
really
know.
know how much money it's going to generate, whether it's going to pay for
the 20,
his
whatever.
time. So I think the percentage is really tough. He has to,
Well, I mean, if he gets 10 kids in this program, he's gonna get $180.
Who's doing the billing for this? He's doing the billing? Are you?
Yes.
And you'll audit it, or?
I'm going to see if we can set it up through my rec.
Okay.
Yeah, so we collect the money that
Right,
way.
and then,
don't do that. We don't want the legal
We don't want to,
responsibility with
Okay.
this. Don't do that.
should we charge him a flat fee, or do we want to do it?
I think a percentage is fairer.
We'll know how many kids have signed up because they're leaving the camp to go there.
Okay.
So
Let's,
we'll know.
20%, is 20% sound like in the ballpark, Bruce?
Fine.
And with we can cancel this. If it's not working out, finish out the week and we can cancel it.
Okay, so 20%?
20% with the rates quoted here, preschool tennis and 10 and under tennis for the camp. He can use the 4 courts for that time, and if it doesn't go well, we can cancel.
Okay, okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
And he'll come to us for the rest of this, or how are we leaving?
I'll tell him to.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chris.
thanks.
I'll talk to you later.
And my advice on the rest of this is we don't.
Yeah, I really
I think
don't
it's too
like
much.
to see us tie up those tennis courts.
I agree. I guess we can tell him, I mean, let's poll the board here. The recommendation, he's looking to basically use the courts to run his tennis business for the rest of the time. I think an addendum as camp is great, but
Well,
Bruce, is
well,
recommending.
Here's the thing, if a resident signs up for the court, they could bring the instructor along, right? I mean, that's
What he's
people
asking
do.
for us is to allow him to use his, if you read this, tennis courts to do his tennis school. And
But a lot of it is one-on-one, isn't it?
Yeah, but we have to be careful that we're using public property
to allow
for a
someone
commercial
private.
concern. We're not, we haven't bid it out at anything. We haven't looked at any of the alternatives. We haven't asked for any
Haven't even
revenue.
met this guy.
Well, that's why I said, why don't we have whoever wants the lesson, sign up for the court and bring him along?
Let's
And
just
stay out of it.
Bruce is saying we
That's what I'm
stay out of
saying.
it.
Okay.
We're going to, I think, is everybody agreeing to, we're going to approve this for camp and the rest is
Yeah.
beyond our scope, something we don't want to do? I'm sorry.
I think since Chris is basically going to come back with a contract for you to approve, you're probably better off just either voting this down straight, tabling it, because you're going to have something new to approve.
Yeah, we're not going to pass anything
Well, I
tonight.
think we're instructing her to let him know we're not interested in the rest of it, the summer camp portion, we are.
So you're just voting this down straight up, or tabling it, and then Chris will come back with a new contract based on the numbers in here for the camp only.
Yeah.
Percentage.
We've just agreed to the numbers for the camp and a percentage.
That was the direction, and what I'm concerned about is if we're waiting for her to come back with a
If she'll miss
contract
it.
and it drags out, then the campers aren't going to get tennis. That's what I'm worrying about.
We've agreed to all courts for camp only at the rates in this thing, on page 3, and we're asking for a 20% cut of it.
Yeah, I must say, the all courts still bothers me. Maybe we can do 3 courts, but, if some residents want to play tennis, I
Well,
don't
it's,
know.
as Bruce said, it's Camp City down there, so.
Yeah, but
Say 3.
Say 3, okay,
3 courts, that's it.
okay. And we're just doing camp,
Right.
okay.
Camp only at the rates in here, and you guys are authoring me to sign this as soon as it comes through at this. Thank you. Is that all right, John? Thank you. Do we have an open resolution?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so now we need to vote. We're voting on a resolution to allow me to sign a contract to have Mitch Adler Tennis provide tennis lessons for campers on 3 courts for camp weeks at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at $18 per hour for residents, $21 for non-residents, $75 for a full week session, or $90 for a non-resident. And then for the 10 and under, it would be from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. at the same rates for 6 to 10-year-olds.
So you're amending this resolution?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Okay, so we'll save this. And I can sign it, I'm authorized to sign it. Rec on the fly. Resolution number 9, 2014-247, approving Weston and Sampson contract amendment number 7. May I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
Second.
For the public, this is for the Thompson Mazzarella Park Phase 1. It's for out-of-scope work. Bruce, do you want to speak to this, or?
When the engineers at the time wrote the RFP for the park, they included 6 town meetings. We've had nearly 100 meetings, so this is all
A
out
lot
of...
more than 6.
Yes, yeah, so all they're doing, and they've given us a lot of these free, but they're asking for some kind of offset for the additional...
And a lot of these were all through the fall with the joint town and village meetings and all the committee meetings and planning meetings and SEQA and New York State, a lot of this for the soccer stuff and...
Right.
Okay, and it's an additional $39,000. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of money, and maybe we could have fewer meetings. Maybe the planning and the village don't need separate meetings. Maybe they can combine, but I think we got to try to do something to keep the costs down.
Joe, going forward, I think you're absolutely right. This is a learning curve. All of these are for meetings that have already been had. Sally Mazzarella took a run at these people. Other people have taken a run at them. They're not going to budge on this.
Who was they?
Weston and Sampson. This was just... Well,
Yeah, everybody's aware, we had very
Michael probably knows
contentious...
where they live now with the amount of times he's seen those engineers standing in front of him.
We had a series of very contentious meetings, and that's drove the cost up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Thanks for doing this, Bruce, and you're right, it is a learning curve, but we're getting there.
Yeah, it's not the park project learning curve, it's the town following its own rules.
Yes. Managing it's a big project.
But going forward, to the extent we could get the 2 planning boards and whatever permits are needed, if they can coordinate to joint meetings.
If you look at what these meetings were for, can I say it for the...
I understand what Joe's saying. I don't think people in their minds really were thinking about the money in these situations. Think people are saying, this is a process we have to go through. Some of it we're going through because of the issues, some of it, but nobody was thinking about the costs of it. And that's what we have to start doing. Now, this was the first time through. Have we ever had another town project that's jumped through all these hoops and followed all these rules?
No, and and in the scope of what we're doing, it's not a lot of money. Again, it's, providing an amazing park for the community.
I mean, Joe, those 2 highway guys were on the clock tonight, probably.
I hope not.
But I bet they were.
Well, we should find out.
You want to be the new liaison to the highway department?
I would be happy to. I've always been.
Okay,
I'll ask the question. I don't.
Moving right along.
Elizabeth, maybe just to clarify,
hi,
the planning
Michael.
boards are done with Phase 1 of the park. We're just waiting, the town waiting for Department of Health approval. I think there's something from the state for the speedy, something like that. That's all we're waiting for, so we can stamp and sign the final plans.
And go out
I
for
assume
bid.
the village is in the same position that we're in. We're just waiting for county and state approvals to come through. As
So
far
this
as the
is-
town and the village are concerned, we've already approved the plans. There are no more meetings unless there are amendments that are brought before us. So at this point, we're just in a waiting mode for the state and the county to come across.
And Warren just finished reviewing the front matter for the park, so we're almost ready to go out to bid. And then the pavilion's right after that.
There's some light here. Thank you, Michael. Tab number 10. Okay, I'm chugging along here.
It's municipal.
I'm writing a note, I'm sorry. Resolution 2014-248, approving the software licensing contract with SMA and the intermunicipal agreement for our municipal software. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? This is for the public, authorizing me to sign the intermunicipal contract that Warren Raplansky has drawn up on behalf of Hyde Park, who's lead on this. It's for, I think, 11 municipalities. The county has approved it. It's boilerplate, and then you're authorizing me to sign the software leasing agreement with SCA. I think I said SMA.
And we get reimbursed by the,
Yes, through the grant. And, you know, paying attention to this, there are costs that we're going to have to budget for yearly, you know, just for. Any further discussion?
There are time limits also on things we have to do, by recollection.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved. And I want to thank Paula Trimble for her continued work on this. She's helping to keep us on track with this, helping Alan with implementing this. We're getting there. Tab 11, Resolution 214-249, adjusting the escrow rate for planning and zoning attorney. May I have a motion? I'll motion it. May I have a second?
Second.
For the public, somehow at the beginning of the year, I don't think we approved this. John Lyons is our attorney to the planning board. He's keeping the rate for the town at the same. He hasn't raised his rate for escrow work in 2-3 years, and has petitioned the planning board, who, planning board chair is here, you could speak for yourself, supports this. We would like to raise his rate, which is still under what most of our other attorneys are making, to $150 an hour for escrow accounts only. He's still discounting town work at a very generous rate, so thank you, John. Is there any further discussion or questions?
I think in implementing this, we've got to be very careful to notify people that there's been a change and this is only going forward, not for any past work done. So that...
Is that your understanding, Michael? It's from today forward, or are there, or is this correcting a mistake that we
I
made?
think the charge may already have been at this level.
I think
I'm sorry, what?
I think the charge for 150 may already have been at this level
I
for
think we
this year for
corrected the
escrow.
escrow and done it. I think it was,
Well, did we tell people? Because all the bills that I've seen are at the $125 rate.
If it's for escrow, it should have been at 150.
Well, but it was, as far as I know, it wasn't, and I don't see how you can go back and
I
tell
don't know that it would
people.
be going back. I think it would be whatever they have been billed for at this point, up to this point.
Right.
Michael's saying if they were billed at 150, it sets. If not, we're,
Right, but if there is a project,
I'll check with the escrow clerk.
let us check and get information, maybe talk to John
Okay.
about implementation and how he envisions it and what's
Any
fair.
further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. I think this is our last resolution, and then we have just a couple of more items. Resolution number 214-250, hiring an attorney in connection with negotiating our fire protection district contract and ambulance services. May I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, the one question I have is he has other charges and travel. I don't know what that means, travel. Hopefully he's not billing us for driving time from Syracuse, but I think we better find that out as to what travel means.
For the public, with our ongoing negotiations with the village on fire protection services, we've found, I think who's the state expert on fire departments, fire protection districts, and someone who's knowledgeable, who seems to be able to guide us, and he and the village and coming to an agreement that works. He's well worth it. He's given us some great advice already.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any
But
opposed?
with the, can I say with the reservation to get back to us as to what travel means?
We just, we voted on an open resolution here. I believe it's passed, but I will ask him, or you ask him, you talk to him.
No, you've really been handling it. I don't want to start switching
Okay.
liaisons to him.
I will ask him what travel means, but we have passed this resolution. We have a couple of, is there any new business or anybody there who would like to bring up any new business? We have several discussion items. Aline, what's your name? Bruce? Joe, Ellen, any new business?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on to our discussion items. I'll take them out of order since Nancy's here. I know we have Thompson Mazzarella Park artifacts. Nancy, would you like to speak to this too? We did an archaeological study of the Thompson Mazzarella Park, the Great Lawn, I think, before we started the plan, and there are some artifacts that we would like to get back in our possession.
Yes, the grant that we, or the work that we did, required us to do archaeology work before we disturbed the land or made our plans. And I think we had a grant for doing the archaeology work. So we had a contract with a professor from Bard College, and the artifacts were all taken to Bard College. He wrote us a report, and the artifacts are currently at Bard College, we think. There's been some bad experiences with other situations like this, and one example recently was written up in the Observer, and I forwarded that article to some of you, and that is in the town of Hyde Park, where the Dutchess County Historical Society provided the grant to have the work done. The artifacts were sequestered at Bard, and now the Hyde Park and the County Historical Society would like to have access to them, and so far they've been denied access to them. In another example, which is right here in Rhinebeck, we had work done at the Farmstead. It was the Equipment House, the Equipment Resource Center that is the owner of the property and the one who had made the arrangements with the state for work that needed to be done. We had a grant. We had the work done. The artifacts were at Bard. We requested a chance to visit them, to see where they're being stored, to see what the situation was. We were put off so that we never were able to look at them. And at some point, we found out that they had been given to another group and stored in Saugerties. So that these are things that belonged in Rhinebeck, and they belonged to the Equipment Resource Center, and there was no reason for them to be given away.
Nancy, I'm just going to, you're asking us to seek return of these artifacts.
I think it's very important that Rhinebeck's artifacts be returned.
Do you have someplace where they can live?
I believe that we have room at the Resource Recovery Center for the time being and for storage that is a safe and secure storage area. Eventually, I'd like to see us have displays made of some of these, both here and the library.
I met with you previously about this, and I did meet with the professor in question.
Okay.
And I think he said that we would need a space about as big as one or two standing file cabinets that are sort of the cloth-lined drawers to store these in. And do we have money in the budget to buy those, or is there something that we can get? Something to think about as we look into it.
Yes,
So we need to take formal action as a board and request the return? Is that what you're asking us
Yes,
to
we
do?
need to take formal action and request the return and have an opportunity to determine what size cabinets we need.
Do we want to see them before they're returned to us, or what are we, or just get them returned?
I think we get them returned at this point. I'm very worried about them.
Does anybody have any questions or input?
All I can say is we've looked at this before. It's something we should, they're our property and they're not here.
Get it back.
And, whatever the special conditions are that we have to do, they were under the ground for 5,000 years.
Which is a preservation in and of itself, and once you remove them, they're encapsulated.
Oh, okay, but they're there, so there's
Yeah.
something we can do. They're not feathers. And this, to me, this is just going around in a million different circles. We need those back, and we need to do what it takes to get them back.
Do I need to write a letter to everyone at BARD, or does it come from the board? Does it come from our historian? How would you like to proceed?
I think it's important to come from either the board or the supervisor,
Or the town lawyer.
and it needs to
I think we could start with us first. I think it might be a little heavy-handed, and we'll send it to the department and the president and, the...
I think we tried the lawyer before, and I don't think that carried any weight. I think going from the board might be...
How did they wind up with these in the first place?
Just took them?
What?
They took them.
They were contracted.
They apparently wanted to write the report, and then they claimed that they needed to keep them. And so...
What kind of report did they write?
Not very detailed.
But it's 660 pages thick.
Yes.
Nancy, can you make sure we get a copy of the report so we can...
We have it on file.
Reference whatever we need and...
We have it on file.
Yeah, it's in your safe, I believe.
Okay.
John should be able to find it for you.
All right, Alan, I'm throwing you under the bus on this. As the liaison to the historic, will you take a pass at the letter? And then we
Sure.
can, you know how well we do with group communications, so we could volley it around and
I'll write a letter.
hopefully...
Tell them you're the king of Denmark or whatever it is.
No, the prince, the crown prince.
Great, Nancy,
Be careful.
hopefully you could help us with this. We will work on a letter and get it out to the parties that be. We'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Nancy, if you could email me with people I should write to.
I can do that, Alan, and we can work on it
Okay,
together.
I'll talk to you then. All right, never mind, thank you.
Okay, a couple more tabs here.
Oh, boy.
14 and 15. We had I had a letter from a resident who has 2 grandchildren who are going to be living with her for a month this summer, and she wants to put them in summer camp at residency rates. I should have done this when Chris was here. We don't really have a policy.
Oh, we did, we discussed this when we set the rates and said no.
She has written, based on that, she has written to us and has asked to come, to bring this before the board. She wasn't able to come in person. Should I read the letter aloud?
No, I don't think it's necessary. We can read it.
Well, for the public, we have residents who are requesting residency rates for their grandchildren who really aren't residents, but will be under their guardianship for a period this summer. So I'm bringing it before you to ask what you want to do. Bruce, Rick?
As I told you when we discussed this, it's gone both ways through my years of experience, and it's whatever the current board wants to do.
Punt.
Yeah, that's what that is.
What we're saying is that, if you live in Rhinebeck and your grandkids live in Red Hook, and they're going to be staying with you,
Yeah.
maybe that you could pay the residency rate. These kids, are here for, I think, a month from far away.
Well, you're right. I think it makes a difference whether the kids normally live in Red Hook as opposed to California. California,
So do we want to stick with our policy, what we have, and say that because these kids are staying with these people for a month and they will have legal guardianship, they will be able to administer medical care, that we're offering residency rate or not?
I think it's fine.
I would.
I mean, okay, now let's take my case. I have 2 grandchildren that are coming to stay with me for a week each. They live in Connecticut, and they're going to go to the camp. What do they get?
See?
I think that's a tougher one.
But I feel like we really spent a lot of time on this when we first, I don't know why we would go back on something we took a very long time to come to agreement to. I think we should just stick with what we said we would do. Otherwise, we're going to open up the floodgates for other possibilities of people doing the same thing and saying, well, you did it for,
Well,
do we want
because
to do that?
the only reason, I'll be very clear, because I'm only one of 5, and I can't tell someone who calls me and petitions for something, yes or no. I can say, I'll bring it to the board.
So we decided that we would not charge residency rates, it would be non-resident.
Yeah, we had
So
quite an
let's
extensive
stick with it.
conversation about this.
We
when-
decided we would, that they would pay non-residency
Okay,
rates.
let's stick with it.
That's my feeling.
And just so you know, what people do is they drive to Rhinebeck, find the relative that lives here, has the relative take the kid to camp or swim lessons or whatever. So there are others who go around this. All we can do is the best decision that we can make as a board, and I think sounds like we've got it right
It's just a question
now.
of enforcing our policy. If we set a policy, what's the point in having an hour-long discussion if we're going to change our minds based on one inquiry? I really think that we should just stick with what we agreed to.
I pulled out some definitions of domicile and residency.
I know it's not perfect. That was why I think we took so long to hash it out, because we couldn't decide.
So really, we're saying that the kids have to be a permanent resident of Rhinebeck with their domicile here, and a domicile is the place that they intend to have as their permanent home. So if the grandparents are here, they get residency rate, but if the grandkids live in Red Hook, if they live in Oklahoma, that is their domicile. They are not residents, even if they're with grandma and grandpa for a month or 2 months.
That's what we agreed
I think it's termed parent or guardian.
Yeah, I think that's more appropriate, because, the father might live in Rhinebeck and have custody over the summer.
It's not what we're talking about, yeah. We're not talking about a custody, we're talking about kids who are coming to stay with grandparents for a month or the summer.
Grandparents.
So we're saying that they are not residents.
They're not.
Okay.
Their residence is where their parents live.
I understand, I feel bad for this situation, but they're making the argument about, I'm a taxpayer, my taxes should cover this, but you're entitled to the pool. You're entitled to use the pool at the residency rate.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what she's saying. We've been told that we will have to pay non-resident rates this summer. I do not believe that we should be required to pay non-resident rates for our grandchildren to attend summer program. Our Rhinebeck home will be their legal residence for the summer, but a residency is your permanent
That's right.
domicile.
Right.
So they're really just visitors for the summer.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement? I'll make the call.
Yes, Solomon.
Fun.
Wasn't it Bathsheba?
I don't really want to go there now.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for your consideration, Board. One last And then we've got a quick executive session, which I swear will be quick. It was all the presentations. We had a lot of presentations.
Well, that's what happens when you have
When you
one
skip- when
meeting.
you
That's
skip
why,
a
that's
board
why
meeting.
I always
Well, I know.
urge that we have 2 meetings
Well,
a month.
We're not, so we'll have a couple of long meetings.
Right, but I
Moving
can finish my sentence.
right along.
You know,
New
it has the
business.
virtue of allowing Elaine to participate where she cannot participate in meetings that we have during the day, so maybe some stuff we
You want
can't.
even more meetings?
No, I
Well-
understand, but when a special meeting's called, it is true. I mean, they get scheduled typically during the day when I'm at work. And I'm not just concerned for myself, but the issue troubles me too, because for working people, if we call a special meeting that, they can't attend, and people that work can't attend, if it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I think it is nice if we're going to have special meetings or the additional meetings, especially since we do have fewer meetings, if there are at least hours where I can, as a board member, attend and have some input.
Well, I think we've had, we're down to 22 meetings a week, but with special meetings and attorney-client, our attorneys really are most available to us in the day, especially our fire protection district is a total day guy. He's booked nights for
Right, but the last special meeting you had was other discussion that I would have wanted to be present for.
We throw it out and it's the board majority, so we can keep doing it. but
Right, well, that's why I'm
whenever the
glad
majority-
actually Joe brought it up, because I'd like the other board members to know that I would appreciate if during the special meetings, when possible, they're scheduled when I can, and not just for, like I said, for me to attend, but for the public to have an opportunity to attend, because people who work, they don't have that opportunity either, and they should.
Great. Any more discussion about special meetings? Should we table security projects, or do you guys have energy for this? Just quickly, when we went through the insurance special training for, I don't think you've done it yet, Elaine. Alan, have you been able to do it?
Yes, I did it.
Okay, and you have it on your
have a
schedule?
certificate.
too?
Well, they haven't given a date yet for the fall. He said he's going to do it in the fall down in Hyde Park.
Okay, great. This was violence in the workplace, and it was pretty, raised some good points. I met with him after this with somebody, I can't remember who, might have been Shelley. He had some input for us and wanted us to change several things. He will have a formal letter coming to us on things to change, but one of the things was access into town hall. It's strongly recommended by our workman's comp risk specialist that we limit public access to town hall. That door's propped open all day long. It is our handicapped accessibility. The side door's open. They would like for us to have one door open only with a buzzer on the back door for handicap accessibility. And they're also recommending that we think about putting cameras up so that we know who's coming in and out, and we save the storage for a little while. Bobby and I met with the local alarm system company, and they've given us a proposal for this to install intercom stations at the handicap door with a master station in the clerk's office, a mag lock on the handicap door with power supply, release buttons. So basically, it could be a computer, who's at the door, let's buzz them in for handicap. The other doors would have to remain locked with signs that say, please use the front door or the back door for handicap. And it's a almost $7,000, let's call it $7,000 job quoted at prevailing wage. And then a camera system is another $11,000. I guess taking your temperature, it's something that our insurance company would like to see us do. At least the first part. The second part, they're strongly recommending.
Just so you know, the second part, I've done that myself. I went over to Sam's Club or something.
Yeah, the Sam's Club sells
I bought one of those things for $800.
Well, this is a prevailing wage quote.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to tell you that the difference between me for nothing and the $5 million you're charging per prevailing wage there is a little bit high. We're going to bid this anyway if we decide to do things, right?
Yeah, this is high.
Well, but if it's prevailing
prevailing
wage,
wage.
if we can do it ourselves.
We don't have to pay prevailing wage.
The problem I see is you have smokers going out, and they always leave that back door open.
They won't be able to anymore.
Well, you say they won't be able to, how are we going to cure that?
We're going, I'm here a lot, and we'll have to, it's a culture change. And, it's.
I mean, we could,
People will have to learn to bring their keys with them and let themselves back in.
or they could stop smoking.
Now we're getting too far.
I mean, there are a lot of town, I was in a town, I think a town hall in Fishkill. There's no smoking anywhere on the property.
So are we ready to motion to go into executive session?
I think so. With this Safeco thing, are you guys on board? You want to bid it out?
Yeah, why not bid it out?
I think it's a great idea, though, to put all those protections in place.
We need to,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I think, I also want to applaud the clerk's office for putting in the Dutch door. It's done a lot to keep people from going in there. After you go through this training and you hear what happens around the state and around the country, it's with little things we can do, we can limit possible.
Where'd the Dutch door come from? Was it always there?
Bobby made it.
Good for him.
There's birth certificates, death certificates, marriage applications, there's confidential information, and, it's a very tight workspace with people coughing over
Right.
the clerk's
No, I think it's a great-
sandwiches, so it gives a little separation.
The 6,900, I have a question. Is that just for the release of the back door?
Yes. Yes. All right, I'd like to, if there's no further discussion, or if the 4 remaining hardcore audience members don't have any further business, I'd like to ask for a motion to go into executive session for matters leading to employment of a specific person and some collective negotiations pursuant to Civil Service Law 14 and some labor issues and a contract negotiation.
Thank you for your interest.
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
We will not be taking any action, so thank you all very much. We'll see you at our next meeting.